A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task. This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country.
That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good morning to you. 6 o'clock, Thursday, the 11th of April. Today, a cabinet revolt on the cards. The Prime Minister faces a backlash from his government after threatening to leave the European Court of Human Rights over the Rwanda policy.
With division rife in the Tory party at large, Rishi Sunak can ill afford splits within his inner circle, but that might be exactly what he's going to get. Find out more with me very soon.
Government figures show sickness benefits across Britain rose in every constituency last year, with Tory heartlands seeing some of the biggest increases.
The Prime Minister admits that stubbornly high NHS waiting lists are one of the biggest failures in office, as a study reveals nearly half of workers are looking at job adverts outside the health service.
US President Joe Biden urges Iran against launching a missile strike on Israel as he vows ironclad support for Netanyahu.
The singer Rihanna is accused of sexualising Christianity after appearing on a magazine cover dressed as a provocative nun. So we're asking this morning, should Christians be protected from mockery?
And the Darcy days are over. Bridget Jones fans are up in arms as Colin Firth is reportedly set to miss out on the 4th instalment of the film.
It's a bit damp and drizzly across southern parts today, but warm and much drier and brighter further north. I'll have more in the full forecast coming up.
Good morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Now, we've got to be very careful this morning. If you're reaching for your phone...
Oh, yeah?
Be very careful.
Why?
Because they're disgusting, apparently.
Oh, right. Why?
I mean, especially yours. And you've got two. You're in double danger. Look at the state of that
No,
thing.
that is actually in a really bad way. Don't look at it. It's embarrassing.
Because according to a new study by Initial Washroom Hygiene...
Yeah.
And this is in the Star this morning, smartphones are up to 6 times dirtier, got 6 times more bacteria living on them than toilet seats.
Oh, no, don't tell me that.
They've done swab tests and all the rest of it. And out of the tests they did, more than half of the phones they tried were classified as heavily contaminated with microbes.
Oh, stop, that's disgusting.
One had 6 times as many microbes as a typical toilet seat.
Oh, that's awful.
So we've got to wash them and clean them and wipe them down.
Do you know what? It's funny you say that. Yes, last thing I did before bed, actually, I sanitised my phone.
Did you?
Yeah,
What
I
with?
actually... Hand sanitiser. I literally went... and gave it a good scrub-dub-dub. So if you were to check my phone...
Scrub-dub-dub?
Scrub-dub-dub. So if you were to check my phone now, I'd be in a very good way.
Did you take it out the case to do it?
No, I scrubbed it with the case on. Why should I have taken it out?
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, mine will be very clean, but I do worry about that.
Yeah,
Because you touch it all the time, don't you? I don't know how often we clean them.
It's like peanuts in a bar. Never eat peanuts on a bar.
Really?
Oh, no. No.
But they give you your individual bowls these days. You wouldn't be sharing, would you?
They probably just swap them about the
Oh,
bowls,
no.
don't they? But, yeah, you can buy sanitizer. I've seen you can buy these ultraviolet things that you put your phone in and it blasts it with UV
Oh,
stuff.
that's something you'd have.
That sounds quite good.
But you're probably someone who's got nice little anti-bac wipes and you wipe down everything.
No, I don't, no.
No, that is something you do.
I might start doing that.
Yeah,
But anyway, so,
maybe we should buy some.
so
Maybe
very
you should
careful.
treat me.
And if you're going to grab hold of your phone to get in touch with us this morning, and we love to hear from you, as
do.
you know, we've changed things a little bit, as you may have seen if you've been watching in the week. So instead of emailing like you did previously, now if you go to gbnews.com/yoursay, and that way you can get in touch with us.
And we need to get used to that as well, don't we?
Yes, gbnews.com/yoursay.
Your say.
Don't say /.
Why wouldn't I say /?
Because you just say /.
Do you?
Yeah.
It's very modern.
It's... you just say... Because you'd only say...
Keep on clipping. This always happens.
You just say,
pinged off.
You just say / if you're using... Because you don't use / very often.
So I
it's
would
just
say / your say.
Just /. Anyway, so that's
All right.
gbnews.com/yoursay.
All right. We need that printed somewhere, so I'm going to be telling you the wrong email address. Or
We'll get it right by the end of the hour.
gbnews.com/yoursay.
Now, Rishi Sunak could face a cabinet revolt if he decides to leave the European Court of Human Rights.
Yes, at least 12 cabinet members are to oppose leaving, including Jeremy Hunt, James Cleverly and Alex Chalk.
Well, it comes after calls from Tory MPs to quit the ECHR following a landmark ruling that governments have a duty to protect people from climate change.
Well, we're now joined by our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, who joins us live now from Westminster. Good to see you this morning, Olivia. And Rishi Sunak facing a large revolt about this.
Well, absolutely. This landmark ruling yesterday was very significant. There were a group of older women in Switzerland who went to court, took their government to the European Court of Human Rights and claimed that they, as older women, had been particularly badly affected by climate change and that actually their right to a private and family life, something that is enshrined in that European law, had been damaged in some way. They won their case, meaning that it is now possible that in the future climate activists in Britain could end up suing the government for not meeting their net zero commitments. Now that really, for quite a lot of Conservative MPs, was the straw that broke the camel's back. There are plenty of MPs on the right of the party who don't like the ECHR anyway because they think that it is a stumbling block in trying to keep our borders secure. They think that because of the ECHR, and you can see why they think this, the Rwanda plan will just never really work. There will always be those last-minute judge rulings when the migrants are on the tarmac ready to leave on the runway. They will get brought back because of last-minute ECHR judgments. Plenty of Conservative MPs who think that. Up until very recently, the official government position was that Britain would be staying in the ECHR. Now, hope you're still following me, Rishi Sunak is making moves, well, at least talking about. Claire Coutinho, his energy secretary, very close personal ally, was making noises yesterday suggesting she would quite like to see Britain out of the EU, which should suggest to many in Westminster that Rishi Sunak too is sort of testing the ground to see if leaving the ECHR might now be popular with the general public. But if he does go down that route, plenty of his right-wing backbenchers will be very happy indeed. Within his own inner circle, within his cabinet, however, it looks like there would be a pretty big revolt. MPs in the cabinet want to stay in the ECHR by about 2-1, including some pretty influential cabinet ministers, senior cabinet ministers like James Cleverly and David Cameron. So what is Rishi Sunak going to do about this thorny issue? There is an argument that if he gets delayed with his Rwanda plan again, that flagship plan to get a hold of illegal migration, then he'll have almost no choice but to leave the ECHR. Will he accept that split within his cabinet? How will he manage it? Could we be in reshuffle territory? We'll have to wait and find out.
Oof. Heck, as if we didn't need any more stress with all of that. Well, he's got that to deal with. He's also got the financial burdens to deal with as well, especially with this new report coming out saying sickness benefit, the number of people claiming sickness benefit in every constituency in the country has increased.
Well, exactly. I mean, it doesn't really come as a surprise to anyone who's been sort of watching what's been going on in recent months and actually years ever since the end of those COVID lockdowns. Benefits have been on the rise, particularly sickness benefits and specifically benefits for those suffering with mental health problems. 69% of all sickness benefits comes from those with mental health issues. And it looks as though the biggest proportional increase in those sickness benefits is in Conservative heartland areas, sort of commuter belt towns and rural areas, those areas which until very recently didn't really suffer with unemployment problems at all. This is a crisis which the Prime Minister and the Chancellor do seem pretty aware of. It seems like they want to fix it. Jeremy Hunt's last budget was all about getting people back into work, young mothers, older people, those who've been out of the workforce for a long time. But there is still an awfully long way to go. Britain has a huge worklessness problem. In some metropolitan areas, particularly in the north West, there are areas where 1 in 5 working age adults, young adults too, those between the age of 18 and 35, are out of work on long-term benefits, sickness pay. What are Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt going to do about that before the next election? We haven't yet quite seen the results of the last budget come through, but it's unlikely that it's going to be a silver bullet to fix that problem.
OK, Olivia, for now, thank you.
Now, President Joe Biden has promised ironclad support for Israel as he warned Iran not to launch a missile attack.
Well, it comes as fears grow that Tehran could retaliate following a strike in Syria that killed major senior Iranians.
Well, Israel has denied responsibility for the attack. We're now joined by US political analyst Eric Ham. Good to see you this morning, Eric. And how much has changed in a week? We were discussing with you last week that tense phone call between Joe Biden and Netanyahu. And now Joe Biden's saying that his support for Israel is ironclad.
Well, again, I think what we are seeing here is that was just a moment in time. Joe Biden is continuing to remain very close to Israel, even if it's costing him enormous and valuable political capital, particularly in an election year. And so we are seeing that Netanyahu has said that he has a date in mind for this military operation into Rafah. We know a number of countries, including the United States, has attempted to try to stop him from doing so, but it appears as though he's moving forward with this plan, even as many are calling it a potential humanitarian catastrophe if he does so. And so I think what we're seeing here is there's still that tension, I think, behind the scenes. But what we continue to see, at least publicly, is Joe Biden remains and continues to showcase that America will stand with Israel, even if many within his own party and even within the country aren't willing to do so.
I mean, this is the problem, isn't it, that Joe Biden and indeed our leaders here in the UK face, but particularly in Washington, in that whatever their concerns are about what Israel is doing, whatever they want the country to do differently, every time they make that public, it has considerable geopolitical implications.
It does. And I think what we're seeing is a level of duplicity playing out right now, because you've got the Biden administration saying that they want a two-state solution, that they want to actually get aid on the ground to many of these Palestinian refugees, even after we continue to see, of course, the transfer of weapons and arms sales to Israel. And so I think what you're seeing right now is a number of those crucial independent voters. Their approval rating of Joe Biden is at 21% over his handling of this ongoing crisis in Gaza right now. And so what we're seeing is not only is Joe Biden losing crucial support from within his own party, but also those important independents who could sway the election. They, too, are now beginning to flee Joe Biden.
And Eric, how much is Biden's public support, this sort of rhetoric, how much can that actually protect Israel from an attack by Iran? Or is this a case of an attack being a case of when rather than if?
I think it's a matter of when, not if, because we know that Iran has already, when they blamed Israel for this attack, they also included the United States. So many nations in the Middle East do not actually look at or actually separate the United States from Israel. And so this is costing President Biden enormously. And this is a major and massive headache for him because we know that the situation is only becoming increasingly more dire. Now you've got a potential trade war between Israel and Turkey. Israel wants the United States to weigh in. The United States hasn't done so right now. In addition to that, you've got Iran looking at retaliatory strikes. And of course, there's still Hezbollah and the Houthis, which are causing massive problems in the Red Sea, which is a major shipping lane.
OK, Eric Ham, as always, it's good to see you. Thank you.
Now, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has reportedly said that his biggest failure in the top job is the stubbornly high NHS waiting lists.
Well, that's as the PM urged junior doctors to accept the government's pay offer whilst placing blame on the strikes for the failure to tackle waiting times.
Well, this comes as a new study has revealed that nearly half of those working in the NHS have been looking for jobs outside of the service.
Let's talk to consultant neurologist Dr Mike Barnes, who joins us now. Good to see you this morning. Is the PM right, first and foremost, to say the waiting list issue is, well, if not caused by, at least considerably exacerbated by the strikes?
Well, you can't deny it's exacerbated by the strikes, but you've got to look back as to why they're striking in the first place. And I think people are striking in the NHS in the first place because of the relatively poor pay and increasing stress levels, increasing overwork. And people now want to be remunerated properly for what they do. And all that work can fall back to is sadly striking. If the government really wants to do something about this, they need to address this issue quickly, negotiate with the doctors and other health professionals over pay, get people back working, and then slowly chip away at those waiting lists. Otherwise, if we don't do that, we will lose a lot of people from the NHS, and that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? More people leave, more work on those left, etc.
What needs to be fixed in terms of the conditions that NHS staff are working in? You know, the reasons that they were striking in the first place, as you say.
Well, I don't want to be too simplistic about it, but a lot of it comes back to money, to be quite honest. The overwhelming majority of people working in the NHS want to work in the NHS. They like the concept of the NHS. They feel they're doing a good job and a worthwhile job. All they really want is to be paid properly for that job. That will keep them in post, and slowly then, with more recruitment and more money, we can recruit more people and chip away at those waiting lists. And I think any new government, and it looks like we're going to get a new government this year sometime, is please just put some more money into the NHS. Don't fiddle with it. Every government coming in has some new whizzy plan to redesign the NHS. Please don't do that. The people in the NHS know what they're doing. Give them the money to do it and let them alone.
I've got to say, I mean, it's the first time I've ever heard anyone say that. To be over decades, to be fair. Just put more money in the NHS and don't fiddle with it. I mean, the reality is here that the NHS is not working as efficiently as it should be. It does need to be streamlined, doesn't it? It does need to be more efficient.
I honestly think the people working in the NHS know how to run the service. The doctors have been doing it, the nurses have been doing it, the therapists have been doing it for years. They know what's best and how to run the service. Just give them the resources to do it, and please don't keep fiddling with it. If there was a magic solution, then surely governments over the decades would have found it. They haven't found it. Governments have fiddled with it, made it a little bit better, made it a little bit worse. Just leave it alone, put money into it to make it work properly, and that will help the problem.
Really interesting. How much do you think staff retention would help matters when it comes to waiting lists? We hear this morning that half of NHS workers are looking for jobs outside of the NHS.
Yeah, sadly, that doesn't surprise me. As we've said, there's a lot of work in NHS, there's a great deal of stress in NHS, long waiting lists, difficulty to get access to those services. There's a lot of abuse comes to the staff when they've been sitting in casualty departments for 10 or 15 hours. You know, it's not an easy job. People want to carry on working in the NHS. But I really do think that putting more money to help the staff there already and to recruit more staff would not solve the problem. It's not that simple, but would simply help the problem. The terms and conditions in NHS aren't bad, frankly. You just need to retain the staff. And retain the staff, you need better working conditions and better pay.
The problem is that many people have argued this, of course. Isn't it just a bottomless pit, the NHS? No matter how much money you put in, you look at what it's costing us now, and you look how much money has been put in over the last 15 to 20 years, and whatever you put in, it's never enough.
There's an element of truth in that. I agree. It's a very expensive way to run a health service, and other countries run on more insurance-based schemes and such like. But if we want the NHS as it is, and I think most people in the country probably do want the NHS as it is and not revert to an American or a European system, then sadly it's going to cost money. It's not a bottomless pit. It's a big pit, but it's not a bottomless pit. And I just think some more money would help the problem enormously.
OK. Dr Barnes, good to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, that might get you going this morning.
Yeah, like you said, first time I'd heard that from anyone.
Just don't fiddle.
Just more money, please. Don't fiddle with anything.
To be fair, I have some sympathy with his view in that politicians do tend to tinker at the edges of the health service, which doesn't help. But that's because they're too frightened to do anything else. Certainly the Conservatives, because they're traditionally not trusted with the NHS the same. What seems interesting is it's the Labour Party and Wes Streeting, who's the Shadow Health Secretary, who over the last couple of years has talked about more reform of the NHS, a bit more, not quite root and branch, but heading in that direction. And he's been able to talk about that in a way that the Conservatives simply can't. And if there is a Labour government by the end of this year, are we going to see significant changes? I don't know that just throwing more money into it is the way, is it? But Mike's in the system. Maybe he knows better.
He says they know best.
gbnews.com/yoursay.
Glad
if you want to get involved in that. Yes, I've remembered it.
Well done, well done. Let's take a look at the weather now with Alex.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, here's your latest GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Some damp, drizzly weather across southern parts today, but elsewhere it's looking largely dry and pretty warm. Like I said though, across southern parts here there will be outbreaks of drizzly rain, going to be quite grey and a bit dank here. Further north though, lots of fine weather to be had, especially across parts of Scotland, northern England, a decent amount of sunshine, and with the sunshine it is also going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are likely to be higher than they have been recently. Could see highs of around 20 or 21 Celsius, which would make it the warmest day of the year so far. Later on, as we go through the end of the day and overnight, we are going to see some wet weather spilling its way across parts of Northern Ireland, into parts of North Wales, Northern England and across Scotland too. Some of this wet weather could be pretty heavy, though in the south it is likely to stay mostly dry, albeit pretty cloudy. Because of the cloud, temperatures won't drop much, so it is going to be a mild start to the day tomorrow, most places starting in double figures. As we go through Friday itself then, and a bit of a north-south split across northern parts, there will be further outbreaks of rain. Some of them could be quite persistent, a bit heavy at times, particularly across western parts of Scotland, perhaps northwest England as well. Further south though, largely dry and bright, some decent sunshine, and with that, whilst temperatures might not be quite as high as today, it is still going to be warm, getting into the high teens. A similar picture for many of us on Saturday. I'll see you again soon.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm just tapping away on gbnews.com/your-survey.
Oh yeah, it looks quite good. It looks very modern.
Very, very
it's
modern.
Like I'd describe it as a forum, wouldn't you?
Yes, you can talk to each other.
So what have you just said?
I've just said good morning all. And
Stephen says, morning all. Hope you join in the...
just don't tell me. They have to log in to see.
Stephen's written a lovely message, so do go on and check it out. And then you can comment below. That's quite good, isn't it?
Mm.
Oh, look, someone's already typing.
Someone's already typing. But it means you can talk to each other as well.
Oh, it's very good.
So, there you go.
Very nice. I like this. It's a good setup. You're going to like this as well.
Am I?
Yeah, it's the biggest giveaway of the year so far.
Oh, yeah.
Your chance to win a £10,000 cash, luxury travel items and a 2025 Greek cruise worth £10,000 as well.
Yeah, so that means the prize package is worth over £20,000 and it could be yours. Here's how.
Variety Cruises have been sailing since 1942, and thanks to them, you could set sail in 2025. You have the chance to win a 7-night small boat cruise for two worth £10,000. With your flights, meals, drinks and excursions included, you can choose from any one of their 2025 Greek adventures and find your home at sea. You'll also win an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash that you can use to make this summer spectacular. We'll also treat you to these luxury travel gifts. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 26th of April. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Oh, the comments streaming in already.
Are they?
Yes. Michelle says, good morning, Stephen and Ellie. Good morning to you all. Richard's emailed about ECHR. Oh, Lee Drake says you can throw an extra 10 billion at the NHS and it will still be the same as it is now.
Oh, this is quite fun.
David Webb says the NHS needs complete reform, go back to its original purpose, basic medical care. And Mick Malone agrees. Says exactly, David.
And look, you've already got likes on your comments and responses to your comment. I quite like this. Check it out, gbnews.com/your-say. //
What, the only thing I can't do,
there.
I'm trying to work out if anyone knows how you change your profile so it's got your picture on it.
I'll help you with that.
I can't work that out. I don't know how to do it.
I'll have a look. I'll choose you a nice picture.
Ah, thank you. Anyway, so game advice quite interesting.
Yeah.
Have a chit-chat with each other this morning.
Very nice. Now, Russia is deemed to be the biggest cybersecurity threat in the world. So we're asking, how can Britain defend itself? That's next.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hey, good morning to you. It is 6:27.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Now, a new study has revealed that Russia, Ukraine and China have been named as some of the biggest cybercrime hotspots in the world. That's according to the World Cybercrime Index.
Yeah, meanwhile, the UK ranked 8th in the list. So what does it mean for Britain, and how much of a threat does a place like Moscow or Beijing really pose?
Well, security specialist Will Geddes joins us now. Good to see you this morning. Well, and what do you make of it? Is it a surprise that Russia is one of the worst perpetrators of this?
No, not really, Ellie. It doesn't come as much of a surprise to anybody, particularly because there have been some pretty high-profile attacks that have come out of Russia. What is interesting, though, is which countries actually feature on this top 10 list. And if we look at, obviously, the first 6, we look at Russia number 1, Ukraine number 2, China number 3, which surprised me because I would have thought China would have been number 2. Then we have the United States, then we have Nigeria, and we have Romania as the sort of top 5, if you like. Or 6. And in terms of the types of threats, this survey's been very, very cleverly put together, and they've been very diligent about who they've utilised, because the one thing that we know about cybercrime is that you can conceal your origin, your location, by using things like virtual private networks. And you can't simply go on data such as who's been prosecuted, what legal cases have been brought, and therefore you have to look at those that are the poachers turned gamekeepers, if you like, who've operated in that murky sort of grey area between legitimate and non-legitimate cyber operations.
When we talk about cybercrime, are we eliminating, are we looking at a completely different area to government-related attacks? Because obviously you sort of think, China as a government, they've got almost like entire villages set up as sort of cyber attack centres, haven't they? Is that an entirely different thing when we look at this index?
Not necessarily. Excuse me. You have a lot of the states that will use proxies. So they'll use private sort of individuals or small groups to actually carry out some of the attacks on their behalf. So if you're looking at something like a distributed denial of service, a DDoS as we know them, which is where they will bombard a website, it could be a government website, it could be a trade website, and they'll take it down. They may use sort of proxies to do that. So they won't necessarily have their own government cybercrime units, because it also gives them plausible deniability. And they can say, this was nothing to do with us, these were individual actors acting on their own behalf. But the one thing that this, excuse me, the survey doesn't cover, which is an emerging threat, is AI. And also something which has always been around, which is social engineering. Now, when you have technology, it could be that you were introduced to an email, an image, a file that you click on, absent-mindedly, and it downloads a virus or it downloads some sort of ransomware to your device. Where we're seeing a greater emergence is in where AI is using vocal recognition, it's using vocal mimicking of, say, a member of your family or someone that you believe to be your bank, or it could be a family member that may try to extort from you. And then there's the traditional social engineering. I mean, there's a great book, if any of the viewers want to read, called The Art of Intrusion by a chap called Kevin Mitnick, where he talks about where individuals call up with confidence and speak to you. And you have an actual dialogue with these individuals. And where we're becoming more distrusting of technology, when we hear a voice, a human voice, we can, if they sound confident enough and they sound knowledgeable enough about who we are, what our account is, we're more likely to be duped into being scammed.
And you can understand that. It's getting very sophisticated, isn't it? How aware do you think UK businesses and government departments are about this level of cyber crime? And how prepared are we for breaches?
We're really well prepared. I mean, in this country, incredibly well prepared. GCHQ is constantly battling the onslaught of cyber attacks which come into this country, and particularly for our infrastructure. So there are concerns about certainly things like Internet of Things, and the more reliant that we are on these things to hold our lives. And if you think about this, this contains everything. This contains our finance, it contains our family numbers, our business, our social identity. I mean, this provides the entire tapestry of who our personalities are and how we live our lives. So, you know, I know a lot of people who are moving back to the good old Nokia analog phones because they want to disconnect to a certain extent. But you can't beat, as I was saying to some of your other guests this morning, you can't beat a good old face-to-face like we're having right now.
No. Well, that's true, and a lot of people will agree. There were so many people who go, you're absolutely right, Will. But it's a modern age. Yeah. And it doesn't happen, does it? Well, not to the same extent.
I mean, here's a question I can ask both of you, Stephen and Ellie. Could you, off the top of your head, recall the telephone numbers for the 3 most important people in your lives?
No.
Yes.
Oh, could you?
Yeah. But then I'm a bit of a geek with things like that.
Yeah, he's a bit of a geek, don't ask him.
I certainly agree most people wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, you see, and this is our reliance on technology. Yes, I do. I purposely do it because for the simple reason is if you forget your phone collapses on you or it dies on you. And the thing is, we can't always rely on these. I mean, if you have an Apple phone, for example, and you have automatic updates set for your software, how many times have you been on there and it hasn't updated it? It will tell you there's an update. So there's still a huge reliance on us as human beings to manage these devices. And the same thing with our telephone numbers. Because if you lose that number, you know, and you want to call your fiancé or you want to call your partner and you don't memorise that number, you're in a very tricky spot, aren't you?
Oh, I've got some homework to do.
Yeah, I've got some homework to do.
I'll start memorising.
I'll tell you what, it does frighten me, though, that as, I mean, like I say, the governments, businesses, all the rest of it, but as individuals, it's constant.
Yeah.
What we're getting now, messages from companies we've never heard of that we're supposedly on the subscribe list for, you know, tweets and phone calls and dead phone calls. It never ends.
No, it never ends. And the thing we've got to always rely on, and this is something I say that prevails across the security industry, and security advice that I give to anybody is trust your instinct, trust your gut. So when you get that email that comes through, the one thing that they're always looking to do is to get an emotive reaction out of you, to get you to panic, to get you to respond without thinking. So it could be, you know, your bank account's being frozen, your family member's in trouble, and you're immediately, and you won't necessarily think pragmatically and logically. Just take a deep breath for 10 seconds, have a look at it, and think about whether you should click on that link, download that file, or open that picture.
Yeah. Okay. Very good advice, Will. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Will.
I've been getting ones from the tax office lately.
Have you?
Going, you know, you've only...
I got one of those the other day, HMRC.
Yeah, HMRC, go, you know, you've only got 24 hours to pay your outstanding tax bill and all that sort of thing.
Was it a phone call?
No.
I got a phone call.
That was probably real. You're probably in...
Probably am. Probably am in trouble. No, it was like an automated thing, and it was like, oh, you were in big trouble and you haven't paid tax and all the rest, but you can connect to someone now if you press this number. I was like, no, I'm all right, thanks. Yeah. If they really needed me, they'd be on the phone themselves.
Well, exactly. I think that's, if you're not sure, just delete or hang up, because they will try and get hold of you again.
Exactly.
Dear me.
Good advice. Now, over £2 billion is expected to be spent on temporary accommodation this year. That's according to disclosures from around 100 councils in England.
Well, the shortage in social homes has forced individuals and families into homelessness, and often in cramped and unsuitable temporary accommodation miles away from where they work and where their support networks are.
Well, now some are calling for the government to prioritise legal migrants over asylum seekers. Our national reporter Theo Chicomba has been looking into the housing crisis.
For millions of people, having a home is a dream. Private rental prices have soared and landlords are evicting a record number of tenants.
This is now the 15th time I'm moving in a hotel room. As you can see, always having luggage.
Chris from Manchester has been in and out of temporary accommodation for 6 months, costing Manchester City Council nearly £10,000. Last year he lost his job and his home after being diagnosed with a long-term chronic disease.
What I know is that our mayor is definitely complaining about how the British government is taking care of the migrant in terms of housing, when he surely should be on it regarding his own legal migrant citizen, and worst of it, veteran, and have been left in the street.
Last year, 109,000 people were living in temporary accommodation, according to the charity Shelter. They say the government needs to increase funding in support services and build more social housing if it wants to end homelessness for good. The cost of housing homeless people in temporary accommodation is putting local authorities on the brink of financial ruin, according to dozens of council leaders. They say the rising cost of living, unaffordable rent and a lack of social homes is forcing more and more people into homelessness. In response, the government say councils have a responsibility to help families find a new home, and we are giving councils over £1.2 billion over 3 years to help do this. The government have already exited 100 hotels previously used to house asylum seekers.
Good timing coming in today, wasn't it?
Martin is one of around 150 people the homeless charity, the Hope Centre in Northampton, is attempting to get off the street this month. The charity say they are stretched as they are seeing a higher than normal number of cases.
One of the big issues, here in West Northamptonshire is the budgets are just not available. So, we have a lack of housing, a lack of funding for houses. The team that are trying to support us to move people on, they are facing the same barriers we face, that there's just not enough provision. And they rely on central government budget to make a difference, because there isn't enough flexibility within the local budget to actually support more and more people.
It's a crisis leaving many individuals and families in a constant search for security, not knowing where they'll end up. Theo Chicomba, GB News.
That's still to come for you. What are Labour's plans to fix buses across Britain? There aren't enough of them. We'll find out in a couple of minutes.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A83 is closed each way between Arrochar and the Rest and Be Thankful viewpoint because of flooding. Diversions are via the old military road. The A74M in South Lanarkshire is closed southbound at junction 14 at Crawford after an accident, with diversions via the A702 alongside the A74M. There are a number of things going on in London this morning. The A118 is blocked along London Road in Romford, where they're dealing with a fire. The Limehouse Link Tunnel is closed out of London because of an accident, and Southwark Park Road in Bermondsey is closed for an investigation. And there's disruption of train services in West Sussex because of flooding. No service between Barnham and either Pulborough or Worthing because of electrical supply problems. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
.41, time to have a look at the front pages for you this morning. Sickness claims up by a third in Tory heartlands, says The Times.
In The Telegraph this morning, Biden warns Iran not to attack Israel as he reaffirms his support.
Stampgate returns to the headlines as the Mail says rogue firms are landing thousands of innocent Britons with £5 penalties.
The Express says patients are benefiting from a radical new NHS plan to fast-track care and free up beds by providing same-day emergency care.
And The Sun focuses on the Grand National as police mount one of their biggest ever operations to stop protesters.
Well, joining us now to go through the papers this morning is former Special Advisor to Michael Gove, Charlie Rowley, and former Labour Advisor Scarlett Maguire. Really good to see you both this morning. And Scarlett, let's start with you, shall we? The front page of The Eye this morning is about Labour's plans to fix UK buses.
I think it's more people take buses than take trains.
Yeah.
Massive more. I mean, probably 3 times as many. We go on and on about trains, and meanwhile, buses have been getting worse and worse and worse, particularly outside London and outside the big cities. I mean, if you're a sort of teenager in rural Britain, I mean, the odds of you being able to get out without a car, I mean, it's just terrible. So what they're going to do is they're going to do the same as Andy Burnham's doing in Manchester, is actually put them into public service, so that we have a proper bus service that works for the people. I mean, it should never have been privatised.
Well, that's the issue, isn't it, Charlie? You know, mind you, I mean, the argument with that is because it's been privatised and therefore needs to make a profit, it's being reduced because not enough people are using it.
Well, that is right, and I think this government sort of yes, you're always right. I would never countenance what you're saying, Stephen. You're always right in my eye. And but the government would say that it's given heavily subsidised bus fares to people. I think they capped at about £2, didn't they? So particularly in the north of England, you can get around for £2 bus fares because most people. It's about encouraging people to use the buses because I think Scarlett's absolutely right. More people do use the local bus network than they do the trains. But it's important to make sure that the buses do run on time, that they're maintained. What bothers me more than anything else about the buses is the amount of fare dodgers that you see these days. And I see it all too often in London, particularly on the night bus, if you're getting the night bus. Or could be a very early morning bus, actually.
I was going to say, what are you doing? Get on a night bus.
If you're coming into GB News very early in the morning.
Charlie, do not pretend that you took a bus in this morning.
Maybe not on this occasion, but I have taken a bus on many occasions. But it does bother me, the amount of fare dodgers that don't pay the fare, because it makes the cost of the buses more expensive for everybody else.
Yeah, and it's really tough for the bus driver, actually. I mean, you see them getting on, because like you, I take a lot of buses.
You want conductors back, Scarlett?
Well, I used to know quite a few conductors, and they wouldn't argue the toss with somebody. I mean,
you were thrown off, weren't you?
Particularly a young man or a group of young men, and particularly in the evenings, and they just shrug and let it happen, and it is really, really difficult. And honestly, I just think the least people can do is pay for the buses, because otherwise we lose them.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Fair point.
Charlie, let's take a look at the front page of the Times, shall we? And this is sickness claims are rising in every constituency in the country.
Yes, and it's an interesting headline from the Times that says that the claims rise hits Conservative heartlands the most. Now, there is an increase in the number of people claiming sickness benefit or incapacity benefit in those constituencies, but if you read a bit more into the piece, it is still the case that in Labour constituencies, that is where the majority of claims are made. Now, I'm not quite sure really what the distinction is now between, you know, Conservative constituency versus a Labour constituency. It's about the country in total. And the reality is that there are more claims being made. A lot of that is due to mental health illness, and obviously that falls on the back of, I think, COVID, where people are still struggling, particularly young people that didn't have that social interaction when there were sort of those lockdowns and things like that. So we're seeing an increase in the number of people claiming right across the country incapacity benefit. And I think a lot of that also in the Tory heartlands, where you have an older population as well, an ageing population. We always sometimes think that in, you know, some Conservative in Conservative constituencies that it's more affluent. It might tend to be that way, but you also then have an ageing and an older population. So when people sort of bemoan why is money or funding going into those, you know, Hertfordshire, for example, or those home counties, it tends to be because there is an ageing population and more people that are going to end up using the NHS and medical services and health services in the long term. But it is another headline that I don't think will be welcome news by the Health Secretary or the government.
Well, I mean, it's a very strange headline. It's as if it's like taken from a Labour press release, right? I mean, who cares whether it's in Labour constituencies or Tory constituencies? And it's about. I mean, you're right. In real terms, it's Labour. In percentages, it's Tories. But what is really, really worrying is the levels of sickness in this country. And I mean, I think what the Times is saying is this is real. This is not people skiving off. This is people who can't work. And if we look at it, it's particularly the sort of 45 to 60 is the older people. And obviously, lots of them are on waiting lists, waiting for operations, sort of hip and knee. And a friend of mine who was, I've forgotten whether it was her hip or her knee, who's incredibly fit. She was a rower and has had to stop. And she said, well, the doctor said, if you don't get an operation soon, you'll just start getting fat because you won't be able to move, and then you'll get depressed. So actually, the problem is that if you, because of the NHS waiting lists, people get sicker, and
well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. Mind you, not getting older. I bought multivitamins yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Because I was told by my better half that you should have multivitamins. So I ended up getting 50 plus. Which was very depressing. And I also had to buy some joint
cod liver oil.
Well, no, because I don't.
Oh, of course you can't have that.
Vegetarian alternatives.
You feeling good?
Well, no, I've only had one.
But you know what?
50 plus, Charlie. 50 plus. And for the older gentleman.
Who's a 50 plus for?
Me.
Why is that?
Oh, God.
He's just had his very big birthday, Charlie.
You don't look a day over 49.
It's hard to believe.
But actually, Stephen, what you should do, what we all should do, is have vitamin D during the winter, because we don't get enough sunshine. Right. We don't need it. We don't need it during the summer, but it's really important. The geneticist Steve Jones, who knows, wrote a whole book about it, says that you know, sunshine is really good for us.
You can feel it instantly, can't you, when you step out in the sun?
Yeah.
Even if it's winter sun, your mood is lifted.
I mean, London during the summer is a completely different place to be. People are smiling and they're happy.
You can't beat it, can you?
Oh. I know. We love the sun.
We do love the sun. We do love the sun. Charlie, can we have a look at fake stamps in the mail?
Yes.
Because there's more concern about these fake stamps. Well, I'll tell you what I don't get about this before we get into the nitty-gritty. And I hate to sound like I'm being Captain Sensible over here, but I've only ever bought stamps from a post office. So if you buy them...
It's happening at the post office as well, though.
It can't be. It can't be.
Well, I'm still slightly perplexed who's buying these stamps in the first place. I've not sent a letter or a card for...
miserable devil.
Well, I just... Everything's now on text or email or online, or you pick up the phone and you have a...
problem.
I've not bought a stamp for... I wouldn't even know how much one costs these days. Is it 50p?
£1.35.
Yes.
You can tell I've not bought a stamp. It's sort of way off.
That is enough to make you not send Christmas cards. No, those of us of a certain age actually do have to spend a lot on cards saying we're terribly sorry that your partner has died. Though, I mean, of course, there are
that's
times,
cheery, Scarlett.
I know, but there are times when actually only a card or a letter will do, and texts and emails do not work.
Well, I still buy cards and things, but I'll deliver them. So I'll see, friends who at Christmas, I'll have them out, or birthday cards. And yours is still en route. In fact, I've identified it. It's still in the shop, and it's there waiting with the big number 49 on your.
Are you 7 weeks late, Charlie?
7 weeks late. Well, I don't like to.
Not that he's counting.
Yes. But it's a serious story because the people that do buy stamps are obviously having to, when they go and collect the post, because somebody sent them a card and the post office said, you've got to actually come and collect it. They are then fined, or they have to pick up the tab for a card that's been sent to them because there's a fraudulent stamp on it, and so nobody's actually paid it. But it's effectively... people that are buying, retailers are buying up these fake stamps that they've got from a wholesaler for as little as 4p stamps, and that's why it's a race to the bottom as opposed to going through the post office and Royal Mail. Obviously, it's hitting people, like Scarlett was saying, that people who do buy stamps and people who do need them the hardest.
Because it's £5 they charge you, don't they?
Yeah.
If it's
but also, it's not the person who bought the stamp who pays for it, it's the person who gets the letter.
Yes.
So thank you, I've got a letter I don't want, and then I have to pay £5 for the pleasure.
Well, don't go and get it. That's what my father-in-law did with his Christmas card. No, well, the stamp fell off, apparently. So it was a real stamp. I only buy real stamps. But the stamp fell off, so he just said, why didn't going to get it? Did you send us a Christmas card? We didn't get it because we wouldn't pay £5 to pick it up. But I don't blame him.
Enough.
That must have happened to your birthday card. I did send it, but the stamp must have fallen off. I sent it here, direct to this studio.
Yes.
Scarlett, should we take a look at passport costs? It's got very expensive, hasn't it, to update
they're going up. They're going up again. I mean, so first of all, you can't get a passport within, weeks and weeks, and people can't go on holiday.
Oh, I tell you what, though. You mentioned that because everyone always says that, and last time we mentioned that, we had a barrage of emails or gbnews.com/yoursay messages of people saying, I got it in 3 weeks, got it in 6 weeks.
Actually, mine was really embarrassing. I got it within 10 days.
Well, there you go, you see.
And it was when everybody was sort of... I mean, this wasn't this year. I mean, this was I think it was the year before last, and I sent it off thinking, it's all right, I'm not going to go abroad for ages. And then somebody said, I want you to work in Holland. And I thought, well, ha. 10 days. And being really sensible, of course, I sent it off on the day of a mail strike. So it didn't get there. Anyway, but lots of people don't have had problems getting their passports. But now... it's getting really, really expensive to have them. And it's sort of... And the other thing is it's so awful these days when you go abroad in Europe, and instead of just being able to go, you have to queue up. It takes you ages. If you try going on the Eurostar, you have to get there a year. An hour. You might as well be a year. You get there at least an hour before, if not two, because you have to go through the French.
Yes.
I mean, it's just...
they are deliberately slow, though, aren't they? I did that on Eurostar. And the French are deliberately slow in processing you. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not nice. I mean, you think, I just want to...
See, I don't think £88.50 is too bad if you've got a passport for 10 years.
I don't think so either.
I don't think that's
but then
bad value.
I don't queue either at these queues.
Do you not?
No.
What do you do?
You've got a diplomatic passport.
I turn up and I think... Somebody looks at me at the till and thinks, I'll take a liking, I'll send him through. So I'll wave to people in the queue as I board. up the back of the plane through the VIP exit.
There you go.
And if only that were true. But my passport, I think I was one of the last few to get the original, still the
burgundy
burgundy passport. But I know didn't you apply?
I got a blue one as soon as I possibly
I've got a blue one.
could.
Oh, you're delighted with your blue.
But then I had a black one, or very, very dark blue back in the day, like you'll have had.
Yes, we are of an age.
We're old enough
that we used to have really lovely passports.
Yeah.
It's also they were proper. They were hard.
like cards. Yeah.
Oh, they made you feel really important.
Yeah, they were really nice. There you go. You two are too young to remember all of that.
Yeah. I know. Ellie, who probably isn't a day over 25.
No.
Oh, please. Not even in that decade.
Go on, you can stay. You can stay.
Oh, dear.
We've got 50 seconds to talk about tea bags, Charlie.
I'll tell you what I was going to do.
Oh, go on,
I was going to save tea bags because it might be quite a good one
what
for
would you
longer.
like to do then?
So what I was just going to do is, because we mentioned the buses.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about buses.
Yeah. Andrew Randalls has been in touch. Hi, Andrew, saying yesterday got on a bus, was asked for £9.30 for the journey.
What?
So went across the road, got a cab, cost me £7.50 to my door.
Cheaper to get in a taxi.
See, that's the problem, isn't it?
But that's a scandal.
That's a scandal.
That's a scandal. That is a scandal.
So there you go.
Well, I get on the bus in London, it's about 20p. If you get on the bus after you've been on a tube, like for the first half an hour, it's about 20p. It's amazing. So it's very good value.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Right, thank you both. We'll see you a little bit later on.
Thanks very much.
Let's have a look at the weather for you this morning.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, here's your latest GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Some damp, drizzly weather across southern parts today, but elsewhere it's looking largely dry and pretty warm. Like I said though, across southern parts here there will be outbreaks of drizzly rain, going to be quite grey and a bit dank here. Further north though, lots of fine weather to be had, especially across parts of Scotland, northern England, a decent amount of sunshine, and with the sunshine it is also going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are likely to be higher than they have been recently. Could see highs of around 20 or 21 Celsius, which would make it the warmest day of the year so far. Later on, as we go through the end of the day and overnight, we are going to see some wet weather spilling its way across parts of Northern Ireland, into parts of North Wales, Northern England and across Scotland too. Some of this wet weather could be pretty heavy, though in the south it is likely to stay mostly dry, albeit pretty cloudy. Because of the cloud, temperatures won't drop much, so it is going to be a mild start to the day tomorrow, most places starting in double figures. As we go through Friday itself then, and a bit of a north-south split across northern parts, there will be further outbreaks of rain. Some of them could be quite persistent, a bit heavy at times, particularly across western parts of Scotland, perhaps northwest England as well. Further south though, largely dry and bright, some decent sunshine, and with that, whilst temperatures might not be quite as high as today, it is still going to be warm, getting into the high teens. A similar picture for many of us on Saturday. I'll see you again soon.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News. The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A83 is closed in both directions between Arrochar and the Rest and Be Thankful viewpoint because of flooding. Diversions are via the old military road. The A74M in South Lanarkshire is closed southbound from junction 14 at Crawford to 15 at Moffat after an accident. In North Yorkshire, the A64 is closed westbound after a vehicle went off the road between Tadcaster and junction 44 of the A1M. In London, the A118 is blocked along London Road in Romford, where they're dealing with a fire. The Limehouse Link Tunnel is closed out of London after an accident, and Southwark Park Road in Bermondsey is closed for an investigation. And in Dorset, the A35 is closed in both directions between Bridport and Dorchester for emergency repairs after an accident. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
This is your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. First, there's a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash for you to spend this summer. Then, we want to send you on a bespoke 7-night small boat cruise for two worth £10,000. Thanks to Variety Cruises, you'll be able to choose from any of their 2025 Greek adventures and discover Greece like never before. And with flights, meals, drinks and excursions included, All you have to do is relax. We'll also give you these terrific travel treats. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 26th of April. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good morning to you. It's 7 o'clock, Thursday, the 11th of April. Today, is there a cabinet revolt on the cards? The Prime Minister faces a backlash from his government after threatening to leave the European Court of Human Rights over the Rwanda policy.
With division rife in the Conservative Party at large, Rishi Sunak can't really afford splits within his inner circle. That seems to be exactly what he's getting.
Government figures show sickness benefits across Britain rose in every constituency last year, with Tory heartland seeing some of the biggest increases.
Rishi Sunak admits that stubbornly high NHS waiting lists are one of the biggest failures in office. As the study reveals, nearly half of NHS workers are looking at jobs outside the health service.
US President Joe Biden urges Iran against launching a missile strike on Israel as he vows ironclad support for Netanyahu.
The singer Rihanna is accused of sexualising Christianity after appearing on a magazine cover dressed as a provocative nun. So we're asking, should Christians be protected from mockery?
And the Darcy days are over. Bridget Jones fans are up in arms as Colin Firth is reportedly set to miss out on the fourth instalment of the film.
It's a bit damp and drizzly across southern parts today, but warm and much drier and brighter further north. I'll have more in the full forecast coming up.
Good morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News. SL Johnson. SL, morning SL. Good morning, SL.
Has been in touch about buses. Says the problem with buses are exposed bus stops, not great for the UK weather. I think that's a really valid point,
actually.
It is
a very valid point. Yeah.
How miserable is it when you're stood in a bus stop and it's blowing a hoolie?
There's obviously a demand for buses, though. Whenever I wait for a bus, I do get the bus quite often.
You do, actually, don't you?
I'm always on a bus.
Yeah.
I'm always about on public transport. But there's always loads of us in the queue when we queue up for a bus.
Yeah.
And they're every few minutes in London. We're quite lucky in that sense.
Well, yeah,
There's always a demand for the buses. But there are parts of the country, so where I'm actually from, in rural Essex, there'd be a bus every hour.
Yeah. See, it's why I don't use buses.
I don't think we'd see you on a bus anymore.
No.
You've got such a nice
Well,
car.
no, but do you know what it is? It's things you learn as a child. And where I'm from, there were sort of buses. Each, if you stood on one side of the road, it took you to Ulverston, and if you stood on the other side of the road, it took you to Barrow. So you just stood there till the bus came, and then you got on the bus.
And how frequent would they be?
Oh, I don't know. Can't remember. But the point is, you just got on the bus. Whereas now, when you come down to somewhere like London, and it's like, well, you've got to get a 1A or an X37B, and it's all different routes and different. And I cannot get my head around it. I did once sit on a bus going round and round the Isle of Dogs years ago, going, I don't know where to go, I don't know where I am, I don't know where to get off. I'm useless like that.
Oh, I have to ask questions.
Because you just got on the bus.
Yeah, I get what you mean. There's a lot of choices, isn't there?
Too much choice.
Yeah, I loved it moving to London, having so much choice. But it was a bit intimidating.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure where to tap. And do you tap it off? I wasn't sure.
Oh, you tap, it's right, OK. That's how long I've been. I used to get the ticket. You just put the money in that slot and it sort out all your coins. I think that'll be easier.
Now you use your phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's about 20p. It's very good.
Oh, well, Dean's been in touch. Dean Bovington says, any journey on a bus in my area, around North Yorkshire, is £2. Well worth the money.
Oh, and on passports, I'm really enjoying this forum, by the way.
You could log in on your own computer.
I know, I like to share with you. So Jeanette says, on the passport, she applied last Friday, And it's delivered today, less than a week.
Yeah.
Very good. We've been hearing that, haven't we? Yeah. I feel like we have a quite good sense. We have a good litmus test of how the British people are feeling about certain issues. And passports, I think you're all quite happy.
Yes.
It's quite quick to get a passport these days, is what we're hearing on the ground.
Anyway, Ellie is loving this new way of communicating with us. And it's the best way now to get in touch with us. You just go, instead of sending the emails through, like you used to, very old-fashioned now, you just go to gbnews.com/yoursay. Here's how you do it.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family. Simply go to gbnews.com/yoursay.
Oh, look at you in the front of that advert.
I think that was excellent.
Very dapper.
It was excellent. I didn't like the voiceover, but I thought the first few...
They didn't ask you.
I thought the first few frames of that were excellent. If you're listening on the radio, I can only apologise. You've missed out on something cracking there.
Yeah, very good, very good. So do get in touch. We're really enjoying reading all of your comments on all of the stories that we're talking about today. gbnews.com/yoursay.
Now, our main news today, and Rishi Sunak will face or at least could face a cabinet revolt if he decides to leave the European Court of Human Rights.
Yes, at least 12 cabinet members are to oppose leaving, including Jeremy Hunt, James Cleverly and Alex Chalk.
Well, it comes after calls from Tory MPs, on the back benches at least, to quit the ECHR. And that follows, amongst other things, a landmark ruling this week that governments have a duty to protect people from climate change.
Well, we're now joined by our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, who is live for us in Westminster. Good to see you this morning, Olivia. And do you think a cabinet revolt could be on the cards?
Well, it's possible that a cabinet revolt really could be on the cards now. Rishi Sunak hasn't actually come out and said that he would like government policy to be working towards leaving the ECHR. But yesterday, the Energy Secretary, Claire Coutinho, who is a very close personal ally of Rishi Sunak, said that she found that ruling, that Swiss ruling, concerning and made sort of noises as though she would like to see Britain get out of the ECHR. Now, lots of people in Westminster thought that that was Rishi Sunak sort of testing the ground, testing the water to see if there was enthusiasm in the country for getting out of the ECHR. If there is, then Rishi Sunak could end up putting that on the Conservative manifesto. Not only would it get Britain out of a sticky situation in regards to this climate ruling, because of that Swiss ruling, which is legally binding, we could be in a position, if we stay in the ECHR, where climate activists could sue the government for failing to meet net zero emissions targets, but also the Rwanda policy, that flagship policy to try and get a hold of illegal immigration, is being held up by judgments from the European Court. And Rishi Sunak is minded to think that if we just got out of the ECHR altogether, then the Rwanda policy would be up and running in no time at all. Now, would he actually push that through? And if he did, how would the cabinet feel about it? Well, it sounds as though they wouldn't be too positive about it at all. It looks as though the cabinet split about 2-1 on staying versus leaving, and some very senior cabinet ministers, including David Cameron and James Cleverly, the foreign and home secretaries, are opposed to leaving the ECHR. That said, within the Conservative Parliamentary Party, there are plenty of backbenchers who have been calling for a long time now to get out of the ECHR, including former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick. And there is a poll suggesting that half of all 2019 Conservative voters would like to see Britain get out of the ECHR. So whichever path Rishi Sunak decides to go down, there will be plenty who support him within his party, but he does look quite likely to face a rebellion. And a rebellion at a time like this, when his authority is already pretty shaky, could be very damaging indeed.
Yeah, he can't win, whatever he does on that one, can he? Can we have a look at this story which is dominating the Times this morning, and sickness benefits on the rise in every constituency in the country?
Yeah, and what's so interesting about this is it is literally every constituency. Usually what we see is higher benefits claims in very urban areas, in cities where poverty is very high. But in the sort of commuter belt areas, in nice rural towns, we don't tend to see very high benefits. We tend to see very high employment. Now that all seems to be changing. And in fact, the biggest rise in benefits claims is in Tory heartland constituencies like those commuter town areas and those rural areas, which have previously had very high employment. This is a huge problem for Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt. In some cities in the UK, including Birmingham and Liverpool, 1 in 5 young adults, that's aged between 18 and 30, are out of work due to sickness. And over the last couple of years, we have seen a huge rise in the people on long-term sickness leave because of mental health problems. Those now account for 70% of all people claiming sickness benefits and not working. Jeremy Hunt has tried to tackle this problem, both in the last budget in March and in the one before in November. They were both dubbed back-to-work budgets. But as yet, we don't really seem to be seeing the effects of that. And Britain really is suffering from a worklessness crisis.
OK. For now, Olivia, thanks very much indeed.
Now, President Joe Biden has promised ironclad support for Israel as he warned Iran not to launch a missile attack.
Well, it comes as fears grow that Tehran could retaliate following a strike in Syria that did kill some major senior Iranians.
Well, Israel has denied responsibility for the attack.
Earlier, we spoke to the political analyst Eric Ham.
Biden is continuing to remain very close to Israel, even if it's costing him enormous and valuable political capital, particularly in an election year. And so we are seeing that Netanyahu has said that he has a date in mind for this military operation into Rafah. We know a number of countries, including the United States, has attempted to try to stop him from doing so, but it appears as though he's moving forward with this plan, even as many are calling it a potential humanitarian catastrophe if he does so. And so I think what we're seeing here is there's still that tension, I think, behind the scenes. But what we continue to see, at least publicly, is Joe Biden remains and continues to showcase that America will stand with Israel, even if many within his own party and even within the country aren't willing to do so.
I mean, this is the problem, isn't it, that Joe Biden and indeed our leaders here in the UK face, but particularly in Washington, in whatever their concerns are about what Israel is doing, whatever they want the country to do differently, every time they make that public, it has considerable geopolitical implications.
It does. And I think what we're seeing is a level of duplicity playing out right now, because you've got the Biden administration saying that they want a two-state solution, that they want to actually get aid on the ground to many of these Palestinian refugees, even after we continue to see, of course, the transfer of weapons and arms sales to Israel. And so I think what you're seeing right now is a number of those crucial independent voters. Their approval rating of Joe Biden is at 21% over his handling of this ongoing crisis in Gaza right now. And so what we're seeing is not only is Joe Biden losing crucial support from within his own party, but also those important independents who could sway the election. They, too, are now beginning to flee Joe Biden.
7:13, let's have a look at some of the other stories heading into the newsroom today.
And the Metropolitan Police will reinvestigate the decision to charge Caroline Flack with assault, as new witness evidence may be available. The TV star was facing prosecution for assaulting her boyfriend when she took her own life back in February 2020. The Crown Prosecution Service had said Flack should only get a caution, but it was overturned when the Metropolitan Police appealed the decision and she was charged.
Sources close to the Royal Mail have said China is behind a rise in counterfeit stamps, which has landed victims with £5 penalties. That's in the Telegraph this morning. It's understood the forgeries are being bought unwittingly by small retailers who are not required to buy stamps directly from the Royal Mail.
The cost of a UK passport will rise to one of the highest in Europe from today. For an adult, it will set you back £88.50, a 17% rise. And a child's passport will rise from £53.50 to £57.50. Now, a massive rockfall has occurred on the Jurassic coast for the second time in 48 hours.
Yeah, thousands of tons of rock broke from the cliff in Dorset on Tuesday afternoon.
Well, this has led to fears that the cliffs could be too dangerous for holidaymakers to visit.
Well, let's talk to geologist at the University of Oslo, Dougal Jerem. Good to see you this morning. Do we know, Dougal, what's going on? Why is this happening?
Well, the Jurassic Coast, as you know, is one of our sort of spectacular landscapes, and it's made up of mainly sedimentary rocks, which are actually quite soft. They form these fantastic cliffs, and they make layers and layers of strata. Now, the problem is that those rocks are not completely solid. They can take in water. So they're at the coast, they're not only susceptible to water coming in from rain, but they're also susceptible to storm surges from the sea. And both of those things can destabilize the cliffs and make them dangerous.
How concerned should we be by this, Dougal? I mean, 2 large rockfalls in 48 hours. How common is that? Or do you think that is a result of the stormy weather and the heavy rains that we've been seeing?
Well, indeed, we do know that sort of landfalls tend to occur when the ground is saturated, is very, very wet. And also, particularly after storms, because potentially waves can destabilize the lower parts of the cliff and erode away material that was holding the cliff up in the first place. So I think the key thing to think about is that obviously after very, very wet weather and stormy weather, that's the most likely times that the cliffs will be unstable.
A lot of people getting very concerned about this, very upset. No, I can absolutely understand it. I wonder, though, at what point, Dougal, especially as a geologist, you have to sit back and say, well, this is nature. This is what happened, has happened, for time immemorial.
Yes, I mean, there is an element of common sense. If I take a group of geologists into the field, as we often do, and we want to go and look at the rocks, we would limit the amount of time we would be up close against those rocks, particularly if they're against a cliff face. We would also have hard hats. We'd have safety equipment with us. But we would definitely not spend lots of time hanging around underneath cliffs, not just because the cliff might collapse. I mean, if a bird was to land on the nest and dislodge a rock, that's also a danger. So in a sense, the paths that go very, very close to the cliff edge, or when you're on the beach, don't set up your sort of beach stall close to the cliffs. These are sort of common sense safety things that you can do yourselves.
But the Jurassic Coast is one of the most popular beauty spots in this country, isn't it, Dougal? I mean, there are going to be massive safety concerns about those heading to the beach.
There is, and ultimately, as I say, the key thing is that when you have water-saturated ground, or when you have big storms that can bring a surge in. So what we're talking about is extreme weather conditions that actually start to erode the cliff and make the cliff different to what it was the day before, and therefore it becomes more unstable. So these are the things that we need to look out for.
OK, Dougal, really good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed. I've always fancied heading down to, like, Lyme Regis.
Oh, have you not been?
I don't think I have.
Oh,
but, going and seeing, because it's all French Lieutenant's Woman's all set down there, isn't it? And just going wandering and seeing what you can find on the beach.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Just head down there. Take a few days.
Oh, all right, thanks.
Beautiful.
We'll have next weekend.
How's your lawn looking, by the way? That was very saturated.
It is saturated, but it's still saturated, but we have bought those spiky things that you stand on, and then you walk and...
I wouldn't know, I don't have a garden.
...aerate your lawn.
Oh, wow.
we're going to aerate it with
Have
spikes.
you aerated yourself? Yeah.
I haven't done it yet, no.
What, do you strap them to the bottom of your feet and then...
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to see a
with
video
great big nails out the bottom like that. And you sort
Can you film that for me when you aerate your lawn?
Definitely not. On the stamps issue...
Oh, yeah.
Patricia's been in touch. Morning to you, Patricia. She's a very big fan of mine.
Is she?
Yeah, doesn't think much of you. She says, I use the Royal Mail Collect...
Take that back.
All right,
Read that first sentence.
Good morning to my favourite breakfast couple.
Exactly. Favourite breakfast couple?
I use the Royal Mail Collect service. You pay postage online and the postie collects the letters from the house.
Ooh.
And you get prepaid address labels which you just stick onto the letter. No fuss, no queuing, personal service available to all with the internet. Love you, Stephen.
Love you, Ellie and Stephen.
Yes,
that's
all right.
So cute.
But
Thanks,
that's a really good idea. I didn't know that existed.
No, that's very good. Now, that's very modern, isn't it? You get the post collected.
Oh, that sounds
from
lovely.
Yeah, because I go to the post office all the time. I don't know what Charlie Rowley's up to. I'm there all the time.
Yeah. And my post is great. I am there a lot. I've got a really nice postie as well, who's and he's even just see him out and about. He always stop, have a wave. He likes the dog.
So lovely. Do you think you have to be lovely to be a postie?
I don't know.
I think you do. I think it's part of the job description.
Well, you've got to be good at mixing with people, haven't you?
Do you know his name, your postie?
No,
Or
I
her name?
don't. His name? No, I don't know his name.
You're going to have to find that out.
He's probably watching. I don't know your name.
My one's lovely as well. He'd stop me in the street and say, I've got something for you.
Oh, yeah,
He knows where you live. And then
they dig it out.
They dig it out for you, yeah. And I always feel really bad because we're often asleep in the afternoon, aren't we? In our separate houses.
Yeah.
Must add. And he'd knock and be like, oh, sorry to wake you. We work in this way. So lovely.
There you go. You see, you can't beat a good postie. Can't beat it.
No, you can't. It's very good.
Right, let's find out what the weather's going to do for today. Well, we're asleep this afternoon in separate houses. Alex Burkill will tell you what's happening if you're out and about.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, here's your latest GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Some damp, drizzly weather across southern parts today, but elsewhere it's looking largely dry and pretty warm. Like I said though, across southern parts here there will be outbreaks of drizzly rain, going to be quite grey and a bit dank here. Further north though, lots of fine weather to be had, especially across parts of Scotland, northern England, a decent amount of sunshine, and with the sunshine it is also going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are likely to be higher than they have been recently. Could see highs of around 20 or 21 Celsius, which would make it the warmest day of the year so far. Later on, as we go through the end of the day and overnight, we are going to see some wet weather spilling its way across parts of Northern Ireland, into parts of North Wales, Northern England and across Scotland too. Some of this wet weather could be pretty heavy, though in the south it is likely to stay mostly dry, albeit pretty cloudy. Because of the cloud, temperatures won't drop much, so it is going to be a mild start to the day tomorrow, most places starting in double figures. As we go through Friday itself then, and a bit of a north-south split across northern parts, there will be further outbreaks of rain. Some of them could be quite persistent, a bit heavy at times, particularly across western parts of Scotland, perhaps northwest England as well. Further south though, largely dry and bright, some decent sunshine, and with that, whilst temperatures might not be quite as high as today, it is still going to be warm, getting into the high teens. A similar picture for many of us on Saturday. I'll see you again soon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Would you not do that just about as we're about to come back on?
Sorry. Sorry.
You share.
I just said my legs really hurt after Pilates yesterday.
Just as we're coming back, I mean, honestly.
They do, though. It's actually quite... You wouldn't think it does hurt this much just sitting still, but it does.
Is that what you do, sit still at Pilates?
No, I'm sitting still now.
Oh, I see.
Yesterday I was not sitting still.
I don't understand.
I know. I'll show you.
I gave up exercise 30 years ago.
Did you? You don't need it.
Oh, please.
It's annoying.
Now, it's our biggest prize of the year so far. £10,000 cash, luxury travel items and a £10,000 2025 all-inclusive Greek cruise. Do you want to win it? Here's how.
This is your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. First, there's a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash for you to spend this summer. Then, we want to send you on a bespoke 7-night small boat cruise for two worth £10,000. Thanks to Variety Cruises, you'll be able to choose from any of their 2025 Greek adventures and discover Greece like never before. And with flights, meals, drinks and excursions included, all you have to do is relax. We'll also give you these terrific travel trips treats. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 26th of April. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, as we can't win that, we're not allowed to enter. She decided to show me videos of her doing Pilates.
Yeah, it's quite
in
good.
that bit. So I've got two questions.
Yeah.
Why would you do anything which looks quite so undignified? And B, why are you recording yourself doing it?
Just to check my form. My form is very bad. I'm not very good.
It looks awful.
It's very painful. Very painful. It's a very humbling experience as well. I shake the whole time like this because I can't hold my body weight up.
Is it getting better, though?
No, well,
because you've been doing it for 6 months now.
Yeah, no. I've had about 20 classes. No, I'm not getting any better.
Oh.
I wonder when that will kick in. I've heard 30 classes is the trick.
It's the key.
Yes, I'm 10 away.
Right.
Talk to me again in 10 classes.
OK.
Now, should we talk about what's going to come up next?
I think we better.
Yes, because still to come, we're going to be asking, should Christianity be protected from mockery? Now, this is because of an advert, it's the front of a magazine, I believe, with Rihanna.
There's
in a sexy nun outfit. Yeah, let us know what you think of that, if you've seen those images. We'll be debating that next.
I'm Gloria Di Piero. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me. My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, the singer Rihanna has left fans furious after posing as a nun for the cover of Interview magazine's latest issue.
There it is, yes. Well, I wouldn't say posing as a nun, would you? She's got some of the habit on, but not a lot. Put it that way, if you're listening on the radio. Yes. Anyway, it comes as a TV advert has come under fire, as it shows Italian nuns being offered crisps instead of communion wafers. Let's have a look at that.
Yes. And it looks as though they are quite enjoying those as well. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Obviously, in the Catholic faith, the host is the body of Christ, isn't it?
Well, in all Christianity.
I thought in Anglican Church it was symbolic.
Well, yes. It is, yes. It is symbolic.
But so in the Catholic Church, that would be the flesh of Jesus Christ.
Well, in that sense, if it was blessed, it would still be.
Yeah, I suppose. Anyway, that's what we think about it. Critics have deemed the TV ad for Amica chips blasphemous and have demanded it to be taken down immediately. So today we're asking, should Christianity be protected from mockery?
Well, let's talk to priest and writer, the Reverend Michael Corran, and Catholic priest, Father Ed Tomlinson. Good to see you both. Father, can I start with you? What do you think? Should there be a level of protection so that images like this of Rihanna and that TV advert just shouldn't be allowed?
Well, I think we're dealing here with an increasing problem of the moronic meets the mystical. In the West now, there is such a dumbed-down culture that I think a lot of people, not even intentionally, end up offending Christians just due to their pig ignorance, really. And I think with the crisp advert, you could see that people thought, well, it's a wafer, let's make it a crisp. When in fact we're dealing here, as you rightly said, with deeply held beliefs by Catholics that actually at the Mass, a beautiful exchange of gifts occur when we offer ourselves to God in the forms of bread and wine, representing all we are and all we have. And then at the Mass, they are transformed mystically into the body and blood of Christ. So it couldn't be a more holy and sacred moment. And to mock that is absolutely outrageous. But I think I would be very careful about how you would police that. I think in our present culture, where we've seen global powers take a bit too much power away from us, I would be quite nervous about handing even more power to those people, because actually often they are the very people pushing for the discrimination of Christians.
Reverend Michael, let's bring you in at this stage. So we've got Father Ed there talking about free speech and the importance of it. But I suppose one of the things that is really irking people is the fact that Christianity seems to be the only religion which can be mocked. You wouldn't see this happen with a sexy hijab, for example.
Well, I mean, first of all, I have to say that calling people pig ignorant, I don't think is very helpful in this debate. I would agree that certainly we shouldn't have protection of any religion, but the fact is that Christianity seems to be the only faith that can be openly and widely mocked. Now, mockery of religion is not necessarily a bad thing, but you saw what happened, for example, in Paris, tragically, obscenely, with Charlie Hebdo. And yes, any other religion outside of Christianity, whatever denomination, probably would not be mocked. I want a level playing field. I want separation of church and state, but we don't really have that. We seem to have a state increasingly empowered and emboldened to mock what it thinks it's safe and won't fight back, which is Christianity. That's not saying I want fighting back as such. I just want more implicit respect from people. Now, the front of the magazine, I don't know, it's advertising. Advertising is hardly moral, is it? It's amoral, if anything. The Italian commercial, it's not funny. It's a very tired trope. These people have paid lots of money to produce ads, and that's the best they can come up with. What I do worry about, actually, though, and oddly enough, ironically enough, Richard Dawkins referred to this, it's cultural Christianity, which I question because I think you're either a Christian or you're not. But we do have a culture in the West founded on certain themes, and we seem to be drip, drip mocking them and abusing them. If that goes on, eventually I think we're going to turn around and say, what have we got left to defend, and what is left to defend us?
In what sense, Michael? I mean, I don't quite understand quite what you're getting at in terms of there'd be nothing left to defend.
What do we stand for in the West? We talk about liberal values and Western values, but what actually are they? I think they're founded in Judeo-Christian beliefs. And those very beliefs, those foundational elements of what we're meant to hold dear, we seem to take a delight in mocking and abusing. And this is seen in other parts of the world. I mean, if you go to the Middle East, if you spend any time in Russia, they certainly think that we're almost committing a form of cultural suicide. So that's my real concern. It's not another ad, another comedy sketch that thinks it's okay and safe to poke fun at Christians. I don't particularly care. What I do care about is a future, next generation, that doesn't actually know what it stands for, whether it's a belief system based on Christianity or a culture based on Christian virtues.
Father Ed, what do you make of it?
Well, I think actually when I said pig ignorant, I think that's the very best we can say. I'd be more worried if they had made that poster of Rhiannon not out of ignorance, because at that point you're looking at somebody trying to make the sacred profane, and that becomes a lot more dark and sinister, I think. You're into the realm of wanting to do something really quite nasty, because, of course, there's a purity and a virtue in the religious life when done properly, which nuns take on, and to want to sexualize that would disturb me hugely if it wasn't just ignorance. And I think there is a huge debate to be had here about why it is that in the West today we're so uncomfortable with themes like obedience, virtue, holiness and goodness. There seems to be a reveling in things that, when you really follow them to their end conclusion, lead us in a worse and not a better direction.
It's interesting that you both, and particularly Father, you seem to emphasise a lot of what we're getting through on the messages this morning. With people don't like any of this, but they still don't think it should be policed. In a sense, there should still be that freedom of expression, even if it's only so we can voice our distaste.
That's one of the very virtues I was talking about, those Christian values. I mean, in what we take for granted, the ability to mock things that are actually devout and held very dear by many people, that doesn't exist in most of the world. And that's not hyperbole. In most of the world, you can't speak your mind. You couldn't make an ad. You couldn't mock something that has power and influence. So isn't it ironic that we are attacking what we actually gives us the freedom to express it? Now, you know, I was watching, oddly enough, just last night, I was watching the debate that took place years ago over Monty Python's Life of Brian, with Malcolm Muggeridge and the Bishop of Southwark being incredibly self-righteous, actually. If you watch that film today, it's a very powerful message. It has a lot to say about religion and religiosity and legalism and love. None of these things do. They're just very basic, tired mocking of what people have mocked for the last 20 years because they can get away with it. And that's a really very sad commentary, isn't it?
OK, look, we've got to leave it there, sadly, but really good to talk to both of you this morning. Reverend Michael Corran and Father Ed Tomlinson, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. And you will have a view on that as well at home. So do get in touch with us on gbnews.com/yoursay.
Still to come, we're going to be talking to the Shadow Secretary of State for Transport. But next, we're going to be looking at homelessness in Britain and that ongoing crisis.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A83 is closed each way between Arrochar and the Rest and Be Thankful viewpoint because of flooding. There are delays as you divert by the old military road. The A74M in South Lanarkshire is closed southbound from junction 14 at Crawford to 15 at Moffat after an accident. In North Yorkshire, the A64 is closed westbound from Tadcaster to junction 44 of the A1M after a vehicle went off the road in the early hours of this morning. On the M25 west of London, the outside lane's closed anti-clockwise where someone's broken down just after junction 14 at Heathrow. There are queues from junction 15 for the M4. And in Dorset, the A35 is closed in both directions between the Esso roundabout at Bridport and the A37, the Monkeys Jump roundabout at Dorchester, for repairs after an accident last night. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, over £2 billion is expected to be spent on temporary accommodation this year. That's according to around 100 councils in England.
Well, the shortage in social homes has forced individuals and families into homelessness, and now some are calling for the government to prioritise legal migrants over asylum seekers.
Well, our national reporter Theo Chicomba has been looking into the housing crisis.
For millions of people, having a home is a dream. Private rental prices have soared and landlords are evicting a record number of tenants.
This is now the 15th time I'm moving in a hotel room. As you can see, always having luggage.
Chris from Manchester has been in and out of temporary accommodation for 6 months, costing Manchester City Council nearly £10,000. Last year he lost his job and his home after being diagnosed with a long-term chronic disease.
What I know is that our mayor is definitely complaining about how the British government is taking care of the migrant in terms of housing, when he surely should be on it regarding his own legal migrant citizen, and worst of it, veteran. And have been left in the street.
Last year, 109,000 people were living in temporary accommodation, according to the charity Shelter. They say the government needs to increase funding in support services and build more social housing if it wants to end homelessness for good. The cost of housing homeless people in temporary accommodation is putting local authorities on the brink of financial ruin, according to dozens of council leaders. They say the rising cost of living, unaffordable rent and a lack of social homes is forcing more and more people into homelessness. In response, the government say councils have a responsibility to help families find a new home, and we are giving councils over £1.2 billion over 3 years to help do this. The government have already exited 100 hotels previously used to house asylum seekers.
Good timing coming in today, wasn't it?
Martin is one of around 150 people the homeless charity, the Hope Centre in Northampton, is attempting to get off the street this month. The charity say they are stretched as they are seeing a higher than normal number of cases.
One of the big issues, here in West Northamptonshire is the budgets are just not available.
So, you know, we have a lack of housing, a lack of funding for houses. The team that are trying to support us to move people on, you know, they are facing the same barriers we face, that there's just not enough provision. And they rely on central government budget to make a difference, because there isn't enough flexibility within the local budget to actually support more and more people.
It's a crisis leaving many individuals and families in a constant search for security, not knowing where they'll end up. Theo Chikomba, GB News.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, Britain is spending nearly half of its foreign aid budget in the UK. But is that right? We'll be talking about that next in the papers.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I wonder, is this the fundamental distinction we need to make between Islam, which is a private religion people may practice freely amongst themselves, and Islamism, when you try and place those values upon other people, place that way of being, force it on people who don't want it?
I have been very much clear about this thing, that Islam is a religion and people are free to follow that religion in the UK, in a free Western society. So we have no problem with people following their religion as long as it is not being imposed onto the wider society. And when you talk about drawing a distinction between Islam and Islamism, people like me, you and me, we are drawing that distinction. We're trying to maintain that distinction. But if you look at the commentator from the Muslim community, some commentator, they would like to blur this line and they would ask you, what is Islamism? Where does it exist? Sorry, it does exist. We see it. And the teacher, this incident is an epitome of that kind of, ideology being prevalent, in our society.
Khadija, do you worry that these views are typical for some sections of society? Do you think that there's a problem with some Muslim men, that they have perhaps views that we don't consider to be British values?
There are certain readings of religion which are misogynistic, which are discriminatory, which are homophobic. We need to be honest about it. We need to be calling it out whenever we hear these kind of views. It's been a long time that we are letting these kind of ideologies crawling in, spreading tentacles in British society, and we are just ignoring it in the name of respecting people's culture and religion. You are not suppressed in the UK.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, it's 7:47, time to see what's in the papers this morning with former Special Advisor to Michael Gove, Charlie Rowley, and former Labour Advisor Scarlett Maguire, neither of whom are employable these days. Clearly, that's why we're here. Previous jobs. Scarlett, let's talk about foreign aid in the Telegraph, should we?
OK, so we think that the foreign aid budget goes to places like Africa, to India, to really help. Actually, most of it is spent in this country. A lot of it on Ukrainian refugees. I mean, and it's completely wrecking it. So we've lowered the budget and then we spend it here. And actually, that's not what the budget's supposed to be. The budget is supposed to be going to foreign aid to make sure to actually help people to stay in their own country. I mean, that's part of, if we're going to be really awful about foreign aid. It is to make the countries that are difficult better, so that people don't have to try and get.
But has that ever worked?
Well, yeah, I think it probably has worked.
Obviously, we're helping to fund the Indian space programme or whatever.
No, I did mention Africa, where actually an awful lot of money has gone into health projects, which is really, really important. But now, all the people who are being paid to have Ukrainian refugees in their homes, they're getting it from the foreign aid budget.
Ellie?
Yeah, I think there's it's always a question about the foreign aid budget because, where should the money be going? Where is it better spent? There was an old term that used to be, I think, aid for trade. So you would help developing countries, such as India, such as parts of Africa, in order to ensure you could then have trade deals in the future. So you establish a country that's not as obviously rich as the UK, but then you would have a trade deal ongoing to continue to support, and effectively the debt or the aid that you've given would then be paid off because of the way in which you've been able to help. But we don't see that anymore these days. It does sometimes feel that you're paying, for example, just the one that you gave, which is the Indian sort of space race, where India is an emerging economy. It's doing rather well. So there is a question about whether we should still be funding certain projects. But that's why I think the Department for International Trade was rolled up then within the Foreign Office, because the left hand didn't quite know what the right hand was doing, and mixed signals from the Foreign Office and the Department for International Trade.
Yeah, but the thing is, Johnny, it wasn't the Department for International Trade. It was the
Development,
Department for International Development.
Sorry.
And it's quite important. I mean, they spend a lot of money trying to find vaccines for malaria, for cholera. I mean, what they do is. It's not just aid for trade, it's actually saying, we're a country that, although we feel very poor, actually we're quite rich, and we can help the developing world, and we can actually...
Well, it's all well and good us saying that. Well, the people who are on the poverty line in this country are going to food banks or can't afford whatever it is. They wouldn't say we're a rich country. They'd say, well, give that money to us.
Yeah, well, the point is that we don't, do we? I mean, it's not as though the amount spent on foreign aid is really, really tiny. It used to be 0.7, which is what Blair and Brown came up with and then Cameron put in. The Tories actually put it in. Boris then put it down, so it's not even 0.7. It's nothing like... I mean, it's a pathetic amount that actually made a real difference out there. But what I'm saying is it's not even there anymore. It is now being spent in Britain on things like Ukrainian refugees.
£7.6 billion in 2022. It's not nothing.
It's not a lot when you look at Britain, but but what I'm saying, Stephen, is it is being spent in this country. It is being spent on refugees, and we need to be honest about it instead of saying, the foreign aid budget is far too high. Well, it's not, because it's not going abroad.
But it is fine point. It is, you're right though. It's very alarming still when you have people who are veterans who have served in this country who are still sleeping rough or sleeping on the streets, and we need to help them.
But that's not the fault of the foreign aid. I mean, that is terrible, and it is. I mean, something.
No, but the argument is get rid of the foreign aid budget and spend it on them.
Yeah, well, that's not what ever happens. I mean, it is terrible the way the armed forces treat their veterans. Actually, I mean, I remember I was working with a homeless charity, and they said 1 in 4 homeless people are veterans because actually you get institutionalised.
Yeah, you do.
And then when they let you go, you've got nowhere. You don't know how to cope. Yeah.
Charlie, let's take a look at the Mail, shall we? And Angela Rayner has been accused of rank hypocrisy.
Yes, she has. This is a story that's not going anywhere, as much as the Labour Party, I think, would hope that she can sort of bury her head in the sand. And it all relates to the property that she owned, and a series of hypocrisies, actually. So she was against the right to buy policy, something that came in under Margaret Thatcher. She then bought this house that she owned, right to buy. She then sold it, and allegations labelled against her is that she failed to pay the capital gains tax on it. She had there were 2 properties with her and her husband at the time with her kids. Which was her primary home, which wasn't, which was the one that she should have paid tax on, where she didn't. Where was she registered on the electoral roll? Where she voted? That's unclear. And did she have a brother that was living in one of the properties where she was claiming a single person's discount from the council? Now, there are all these allegations labelled against her. The woman that would go on to be the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. So this is why it's a serious accusation. Yeah. But she's been accused of hypocrisy because she's asked lots of people to declare their tax returns at various points, and she's obviously refusing to declare the advice that she said she's received, which exonerates her from all of these allegations. But the fact that she won't be clear about it, or won't publish that advice, and no one will say that they've actually seen it, means that this story is just going to run and run.
Yeah, I mean, she's got to be a bit clearer on this, hasn't she?
But what we know is that the Tories are after a scalp. I mean, they're desperate.
But come on, but come on, forget. I mean, you're right.
I am right.
But forget that. The idea, and what is claiming is that she had a husband and 2 young children, and yet she didn't live in the same house as them, and she lived a mile down the road in somewhere else until she sold it. Come on. Yeah. Who's going to believe that?
OK, but what one doesn't know is when she lived there and what... I mean, look, my ex and I, we lived together. We've started getting on badly. We bought another flat for him. It didn't work. We split up. But actually, you know, by the time he sold the flat, which was pretty soon after we split up, I mean, he called it his primary residence because that's where he was living. So we don't actually know what was and what wasn't. I mean, it's a story that the Daily Mail is desperate.
But it's not just a paper story. You know, the councils that she used to work in, they're investigating it. The police are now investigating it. So it's a very, very serious issue.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
OK, thank you both. Out of time. Here's your weather.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, here's your latest GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Some damp, drizzly weather across southern parts today, but elsewhere it's looking largely dry and pretty warm. Like I said though, across southern parts here there will be outbreaks of drizzly rain, going to be quite grey and a bit dank here. Further north though, lots of fine weather to be had, especially across parts of Scotland, northern England, a decent amount of sunshine, and with the sunshine it is also going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are likely to be higher than they have been recently. Could see highs of around 20 or 21 Celsius, which would make it the warmest day of the year so far. Later on, as we go through the end of the day and overnight, we are going to see some wet weather spilling its way across parts of Northern Ireland, into parts of North Wales, Northern England and across Scotland too. Some of this wet weather could be pretty heavy, though in the south it is likely to stay mostly dry, albeit pretty cloudy. Because of the cloud, temperatures won't drop much, so it is going to be a mild start to the day tomorrow, most places starting in double figures. As we go through Friday itself then, and a bit of a north-south split across northern parts, there will be further outbreaks of rain. Some of them could be quite persistent, a bit heavy at times, particularly across western parts of Scotland, perhaps northwest England as well. Further south though, largely dry and bright, some decent sunshine, and with that, whilst temperatures might not be quite as high as today, it is still going to be warm, getting into the high teens. A similar picture for many of us on Saturday. I'll see you again soon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A83 is closed between Arrowcar and the Rest and Be Thankful viewpoint because of the weather. Diversions are via the old military road. The A74M in South Lanarkshire is closed southbound from junction 14 at Crawford to 15 at Moffat after an accident. Queues towards there and delays as you divert. In North Yorkshire, the A64 is closed westbound from Tadcaster to junction 44 of the A1M after an accident overnight. In Dorset, the A35 is closed in both directions between Bridport and the A37 at the Monkeys Jump roundabout at Dorchester for repairs after an accident last night. And in Cornwall, the A389 is closed in both directions along Turf Street in Bodmin for a police investigation. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Variety Cruises have been sailing since 1942, and thanks to them, you could set sail in 2025. You have the chance to win a 7-night small boat cruise for two worth £10,000. With your flights, meals, drinks and excursions included, you can choose from any one of their 2025 Greek adventures and find your home at sea. You'll also win an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash that you can use to make this summer spectacular. We'll also treat you to these luxury travel gifts. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 26th of April. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock on Thursday, the 11th of April. Today is a cabinet revolt on the cards. Rishi Sunak faces backlash from his government after threatening to leave the European Court of Human Rights over the Rwanda policy.
With division rife at the Tory party at large, Rishi Sunak really can't afford splits within his own inner circle, but that might be exactly what he's going to get.
Sickness benefits across Britain rose in every constituency last year, with Tory heartland seeing some of the biggest increases.
The Prime Minister admits that stubbornly high NHS waiting lists are one of the biggest failures in office. As a study reveals, nearly half of workers in the NHS are looking for jobs outside of it.
US President Joe Biden urges Iran against launching a missile strike on Israel as he vows ironclad support for Netanyahu.
Now, nearly a fifth of teenagers say the internet is their main source of information about sexual health and relationships. So we're asking, should schools take a greater role?
And the Darcy days are over. Bridget Jones fans are up in arms as Colin Firth is reportedly set to miss out on the 4th instalment of the film.
It's a bit damp and drizzly across southern parts today, but warm and much drier and brighter further north. I'll have more in the full forecast coming up.
Morning to you, I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Lee Gardner's been in touch this morning.
Morning, Lee Gardner. What's he saying?
We shouldn't be so self-indulgent, actually. He says, I've just started watching GB News, and I find it far superior to anything else I've been watching. Well, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
And he likes you and me as well.
Aww.
As does David Horton. I'm just scrolling through gbnews.com/yoursay.
Yoursay, yes, very good.
Pamela loves GB News, the only news programme I've watched for the last year. Oh, what a joy to watch me and you together.
Oh.
Great camaraderie.
And I love our clothes coordination too.
Keith Jolliffe says, I'd hate to be a worm in Stephen's garden. He's called it Stephen's worm genocide. I see, gently basking just under the surface of the lawn when I'm suddenly chopped into pieces by him and his husband wearing spiked shoes. Worm genocide. It's aerating the lawn, Keith.
Oh, the poor worms.
That's what happens.
You've got to think of them.
Yes, but then worms survive if you've got them in. It's more for the birds. The blackbirds are out on the lawn, I saw even when I was getting up this morning. So it's fine.
Oh, look, Angela's saying we're natural and happy. That's nice.
Well, I wouldn't say happy.
It's all false.
Steve Holmes says, good morning from sunny Spain. It's very sunny here, but you still brighten up the day.
Oh,
Thank you very much indeed. I'd love to get out and about to Spain and have a bit of sunshine.
Oh, wouldn't we all? Even though you've got a little staycay next week, haven't you?
Yes, we're going away for a couple of days. I've just woke up this morning to find something's been booked.
Well, it's very nice, isn't it?
We've both got a couple of days off, so we're just going to take the dog and head to Norfolk.
I think that's a very good idea. I hope you have good weather.
So do I, but if we don't, doesn't matter.
OK.
Get out and walk on the beach.
I was about to say, you'd stay inside, watch a film, that would be mine. And you were like, no, go out for a walk in the rain.
It'll be fine.
Oh,
it's all part of the fun. As you can see, we're absolutely fascinated by all the messages that we can now access on gbnews.com/yoursay. It's a new way of getting in touch. If you're still a bit wondering what it's all about, here's all the details for you.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family. Simply go to gbnews.com/yoursay.
And we're very much enjoying it, aren't we?
We are, because we get to see what you're saying in real time. The only trouble is there's so many messages, it's scrolling through them to get to them all.
Yeah, there's so many. But isn't that lovely?
It is
Everyone
lovely.
can get involved in the conversation.
So we can. You've got a very good chance of being mentioned.
Yes.
There you go.
We'll try and read as many as we can throughout the programme.
You need to log in.
I know, I do need to. I'm kind of enjoying sharing with you, though.
Oh, yeah. Sharing is caring.
It is.
Now, our top story today, and the Prime Minister could face a cabinet revolt if he decides to leave the European Court of Human Rights.
Yes, at least 12 cabinet members are to oppose leaving, including Jeremy Hunt, James Cleverly and Alex Chalk.
Well, of course, this comes after calls from Tory MPs, even more calls than normal, to quit the ECHR following a landmark ruling this week that governments have a duty to protect people from climate change.
Well, we're now joined by our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, who joins us live now from Westminster. Good to see you this morning, Olivia. And do you really think Rishi Sunak could see a revolt on his hands over this?
Well, it all depends really on what he does. He hasn't actually yet said that it will be official Conservative policy at the next election to withdraw from the ECHR. But it looks possible for the first time that he might go down that route. Yesterday, Claire Coutinho, the Energy Secretary, a very close personal friend and ally of Rishi Sunak's, said that she thought that ruling, that Swiss ruling, was concerning, suggesting that she might be now pushing to leave the ECHR. And that has been seen in Westminster as Rishi Sunak sort of testing the waters to see if there is an appetite, both in the Conservative Parliamentary Party and, of course, in the wider public, for leaving the ECHR. Now, not only would that be convenient for Rishi Sunak in that it would get around this Swiss ruling, he does not want to be in a situation where climate activists could potentially sue the government for failing to meet net zero targets, but also it would remove a big stumbling block in the Rwanda plan. At the moment, what keeps happening is that before migrants are actually shipped off to Rwanda, they were taken off planes on the runway back in June 2022 because of a last-minute judgment from European Court judges. Rishi Sunak thinks that perhaps getting out of the ECHR would remove that stumbling block for him. That said, it is not all plain sailing. There are a lot of cabinet ministers who oppose leaving the ECHR, including some very senior ones: David Cameron, James Cleverly, the Justice Secretary himself, Alex Chalk, Tom Tugendhat, who says that it would compromise the Good Friday Agreement. So essentially, Rishi Sunak is stuck between a rock and a hard plate. Refused to leave the ECHR, and he risks getting his Rwanda plan into trouble again, and getting on the wrong side of those right-wing Tory backbenchers who are so crucial to his success. Leave the ECHR, and he risks annoying his very senior backbenchers who all would like to stay in it. So yet again, there's another headache for the Prime Minister.
Yeah, well, from that headache to another one then, Olivia, what are we to make of these claims in the Times this morning and elsewhere that claims for sickness benefit are on the rise right across the country? Because obviously that's a huge problem in terms of the benefit bill, in terms of the move to get people back to work. Do we know, A, what's driving it, and B, how any government, either outgoing or incoming, can deal with it?
Well, it's a really, really interesting question, and one that politicians are obviously very keen to get to the bottom of. What we've seen in the last few years is specifically a huge rise in the number of people claiming sickness benefits for mental ill health. In fact, 69% of all sickness benefits are now for mental health problems. There are some Conservative MPs I've spoken to, generally on the right of the party, sort of whispering that perhaps there could be some people who are playing the system, people who quite like being furloughed, for example, during the COVID pandemic, and just don't really want to go back to work. Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt are trying to sort of guard against that by absolutely making sure that work always pays, that you'll always be financially better off by going to work than being at home on benefits. Those are the sort of moves they've been making in the last budget. But there are people who feel as though all of that is sort of tinkering round the edges. This is an enormous problem. In some bits of the UK, 1 in 5 working age adults are on long-term benefits with no plans and no way to get back into the workforce. That is a huge problem, both for the sake of sort of growing the economy. That was one of Rishi Sunak's 5 promises when he took office. And also, of course, because of the enormous benefits bill the country has been racking up over the last few years and will continue to do so. So this is a problem that the Chancellor and the Prime Minister desperately want to tackle. But at the moment, it seems as though ideas are quite thin on the ground. OK, Olivia, for now, thank you.
Well, meanwhile, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has reportedly said that his biggest failure in the top job is the stubbornly high NHS waiting lists.
Well, according to reports this morning, the PM urged junior doctors to accept the pay offer on the table, placing blame on the strikes for the failure to tackle the very long waiting lists.
Well, this comes as a new study has revealed that nearly half of those working in the NHS have been looking for jobs outside of the service.
Well, let's talk to junior doctor Basha Mukherjee, who joins us now. Really good to see you this morning. Is the Prime Minister right? Is this all your fault for going on strike, and should you now take the offer?
I think it's very irresponsible of the Prime Minister to pass the blame so overtly when he's trying to retain us as staff. You know, this dispute has been going on for more than a year now, and to say that it's just the junior doctors' fault for the failure of both parties really to come to a agreement, I think it's very irresponsible. It's very disrespectful towards junior doctors. I mean, if you want this workforce to stay in the NHS and uphold the NHS, then this is no way to be speaking off them and to them.
I mean, you talk about the importance there of retaining staff. What do you make of this out this morning that says that nearly half of NHS workers are spending time looking for work outside of the service? Does that surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me, but I think this is something the whole country needs to really think about in terms of why we're in this position that we are in. For me personally, I remember my very first week after joining the NHS thinking, oh my God, I can't wait to leave this place. And I think we do have a culture in the NHS of making even new staff feel very uncomfortable, just because they're sometimes put in situations where they might not be trained enough, they might not be experienced enough, but they have to deal with situations which are beyond their pay grade and also beyond their experience level. So in that way, I do think it's not just about pay, it's also about the way the system is run overall. And what we need to do is support and, really at that very early stage, not fill the minds of young people in terms of new doctors, new nurses with cynicism and regret of joining the NHS.
I mean, obviously, the issue junior doctors have got primarily at the moment, the one that can be sorted out is money, but there's that in itself, even if that's resolved, it doesn't sort out working conditions, does it? And we were talking to a neurologist earlier on who said, well, with the NHS, politicians need to put more money in and stop tinkering at the edges. Do you agree with that, or do you think that actually some reform is necessary?
Look, the more money you put in, the more red tape there is going to be in terms of where that money is put and accounting for it and all the rest of it. So I don't think just putting more money is the answer. I do think, however, that paying your staff appropriately, listening to them, making them feel valued. And if it's not pay raises, then at least make their work environment more comfortable, at least reduce some of the burden of all the unnecessary, non-patient related paperwork that we have to deal with. Make the job more about what we came in to do this job for, which is patient care. And I don't think we spend the majority of our time focused on what we should be doing, which is patients.
Rishi Sunak has spoken directly to junior doctors, telling them to accept a pay offer as it's the most generous for anyone in the public sector anywhere. How close do you think this is to a resolution?
I don't know if this will be the final offer or if this is going to carry on, because we've seen this now for a whole year. And personally, you know, I can see that there is dwindling faith in whether the strike action is going to really be resolved by the Tory government at all. But I do think that maybe there needs to be more discussion around, if there isn't enough money there, other ways that junior doctors can be helped. We know the MPs get other perks, for example, expenses that they can claim, and various other perks, essentially. And we're also public servants in the same way. So, you know, if it isn't necessarily a pay rise, give us something else to work with, potentially.
OK, Dr Mukherjee, good to talk to you this morning. Thanks very much indeed. I'll tell you what, she makes some valid points. I think part of the issue here has been, and they've said it for a long time, not enough discussion.
No.
Not enough, you know, the health secretary, you know, not sitting around the table enough with the junior doctors' representatives and discussing what is available, what the options are, what you can realistically do. I don't know.
Well, our first guest probably had that bit right, didn't he, where he was saying the doctors and the nurses know best. They know how best to run the system.
I don't know if that's right.
Really?
No, I don't. Because you get entrenched in the system, don't you? And in a way, it's not the people on the front line that are the problem in money flowing out of the health service. It's the way it's managed, it's the way it's structured. And that's the problem. It's things like how many appointment letters do you get? I mean, I get so many appointment letters, it's untrue.
At £1.38 per postage stamp.
£1.35, yeah. Plus the envelopes and paper and printing and all the rest of it. It doesn't take many of them to cost you a few million quid.
Yep.
So it's stuff like that. There's got to be, and procurement and things which need to be sorted out. I don't know, but Dr Mukherjee not saying the opposite to our neurologist, saying, yeah, you don't need to throw more, it's not about throwing more money in. And
more money means more red tape, is what she said.
Interesting, isn't it?
Barry, do let us know what you think, gbnews.com/your say. We're still getting used to that, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Though, interestingly, if I can log in, here we go. Pam Iverson.
Oh, yeah.
Watching from Australia. Good morning. Prefer the... oh, no, let's miss that bit.
Don't read that bit.
What about Colin Firth in Bridget Jones? No Colin Firth. It's a fantasy film, and they've dropped the fantasy. Absolutely ridiculous.
Don't
no,
panic.
Pam, don't panic, because Ellie's already found the solution for you. She's very excited.
There's going to be a new love interest, apparently, for Bridget. Is that right?
About a third of her age.
Yeah, Toy Boy is what people are guessing. Leo Woodall. He was in One Day on Netflix, so he is a big name at the moment, and apparently, or allegedly, he's going to be Bridget's new Toy Boy in the new film.
You're very excited,
which will be very good, I think. Hugh Grant is in it, who I adore in the originals. He's very funny, isn't he? So it's good that he's staying.
I think I've seen the first one.
But I think lots of people are very upset about lack of Colin Firth. So you let us know, would Leo do it for you, or are you going to miss Colin Firth?
You'll be all right, Pam.
You'll be all right, Pam. Don't panic.
Yeah.
Leo's very good.
Right, on serious things, the Home Office is unable to confirm how many convicted foreign nationals were given a deportation order in 2023.
Yes, responding to a Freedom of Information request, the Home Office said it was unable to confirm figures due to a disruption to data systems.
Let's talk to our investigations reporter, Charlie Peters, who's here. I don't know what to say to you, Charlie. We've deported people with a conviction in 2023, but we have no record of how many. Could be 1, could be 50,000.
Well, they know how many they've deported, but they can't say how many orders are out, because there could be people who've been given orders saying, we will deport you, and they haven't got to that bit yet. So there is a gap between that information. That is information they really should have. And speaking to senior figures in the Home Office last night, many of them said, no, we really should have this data, and they're concerned by the back and forth I've had with the department this week.
Yeah.
A bit of context for this is quite important, though, because last year the Chief Inspector of the Borders said that there is a big issue with information management and data management in the Home Office, and they did actually point, in the response to the FOI, the Home Office said that there was disruption to their systems. Now, earlier last month, the Countering Illegal Migration Minister, Michael Tomlinson, there are 2 migration ministers now, he said that they had data up to September 2022 on the number of people who've been issued a deportation order, foreign national offenders, but were still living in the community. So as it stands, we simply do not know the number of foreign offenders, people who've either been convicted and are on bail or have been released from prison, who are just living in the community and waiting to be sent away. Those are quite concerning.
I mean, if we haven't got the figures, how do we track them down and how do we actually deport them?
Well, that is the main question, and I think they haven't been able to answer that this week in my conversation with the Home Office. And we have heard from the Foreign National Offender Returns Command last year in that report saying that there is no, as they say, single version of the truth on the data on this issue. Really, you should have that, because we're often talking about some extremely dangerous people, and the teams that work on this section in the Home Office, they are regularly chartering flights to countries where there are major issues with foreign national offenders, Jamaica and Albania in particular in recent years. These are escorted, chartered, accompanied returns to those countries, but at the same time, they just don't know how many people they've had those orders issued against. Now, is that because there's a data issue? Is it because there are different teams working on that? We're not sure, but it's information they really should have.
No, it definitely is. And it does also raise concerns about security in this country, doesn't it?
And one of the senior people in the Home Office I spoke to yesterday said that this comes at a time where the detention estate is really struggling. So they say that it's down to about 2,200 now. So the space available to hold people while you prepare for that deportation is dwindling as the numbers of foreign national offenders are rising. Now, the Home Office said that they don't recognise the claims that I've raised this week in that back and forth correspondence, but they didn't give me the data. And at the same time, they also said, they pointed to the fact that they've deported some 17,200 people since January 2019. But the question remains, how many more people are there waiting and have that order issued against them?
Yeah. Charlie, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
It just seems preposterous that in this day and age there isn't data available. In a computer age, if it's been compromised, where's the backup?
Yeah, it's a concern, isn't it?
Even this has got a backup. Never mind a Home Office system.
Well, it's good you're asking the questions, Charlie. Someone's got to. Thank you very much. Now, at 21 minutes past 8, let's take a look at the weather. Now with Alex.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, here's your latest GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Some damp, drizzly weather across southern parts today, but elsewhere it's looking largely dry and pretty warm. Like I said though, across southern parts here there will be outbreaks of drizzly rain, going to be quite grey and a bit dank here. Further north though, lots of fine weather to be had, especially across parts of Scotland, northern England, a decent amount of sunshine, and with the sunshine it is also going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are likely to be higher than they have been recently, recently. Could see highs of around 20 or 21 Celsius, which would make it the warmest day of the year so far. Later on, as we go through the end of the day and overnight, we are going to see some wet weather spilling its way across parts of Northern Ireland, into parts of North Wales, Northern England and across Scotland too. Some of this wet weather could be pretty heavy, though in the south it is likely to stay mostly dry, albeit pretty cloudy. Because of the cloud, temperatures won't drop much, so it is going to be a mild start to the day tomorrow, most places starting in double figures. As we go through Friday itself then, and a bit of a north-south split across northern parts, there will be further outbreaks of rain. Some of them could be quite persistent, a bit heavy at times, particularly across western parts of Scotland, perhaps northwest England as well. Further south though, largely dry and bright, some decent sunshine, and with that, whilst temperatures might not be quite as high as today, it is still going to be warm, getting into the high teens. A similar picture for many of us on Saturday. I'll see you again soon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now it's time for our biggest giveaway of the year so far. Your chance to win £10,000 in cash, luxury travel items and a 2025 Greek cruise worth £10,000.
Yeah, and if your maths is any good, that'll tell you it's a prize package worth more than £20,000. And it could be yours.
Variety Cruises have been sailing since 1942, and thanks to them, you could set sail in 2025. You have the chance to win a 7-night small boat cruise for two worth £10,000. With your flights, meals, drinks and excursions included, you can choose from any one of their 2025 Greek adventures and find your home at sea. You'll also win an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash that you can use to make this summer spectacular. We'll also treat you to these luxury travel gifts. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 26th of April. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, best of luck to you. Now, still to come, we're going to be debating whether schools should take a greater role in sex education. That's next.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
I'm delighted to welcome Andrew Doyle, who was behind that comedy event in Edinburgh last night. Andrew, great stuff. Look, what's the mood like on the ground in Scotland?
Well, I mean, certainly at last night's event at Comedy Unleashed in Edinburgh, there was a sense of relief that we're all gathering and we're all laughing at this stuff. We're just laughing at the way that the police have approached this, the way the SNP have approached it. Various people from various of the protected characteristics that you must not mock or offend were mocking each other. It was just a reminder that actually these are just jokes. We're just having a laugh. We're just exercising our creative freedom and our freedom of speech. The mood, I think, is generally one of disbelief that Humza Yousaf and the SNP have pushed through this crazy authoritarian draconian law, irrespective of all the criticisms that have come from senior members of the police, members of the judiciary, members of the public, the QCs, various bodies have all said this is not workable because the police have said that they will investigate absolutely every complaint. And although they've said they won't target comedians, they're going to end up investigating comedians if the complaints come in, because that's what they've pledged to do.
Well, that's it. So conceivably, and this is how ridiculous and unenforceable it is, if someone had reported you last night in that audience, the police would have had to have investigated you, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And whether they would have taken it any further will come down to the individual police officer. We had Siobhan Brown from the SNP on the BBC the other day, and she was asked very clearly about this. You know, who makes the decision what to investigate and what not to investigate, how to take it forward? She said it's a matter of individual police judgment. Now, the problem with that, of course, is there are activists within the police force in Scotland. We've caught them at it before. Now, the fact that they're not going to pursue J.K. Rowling after she challenged them is partly probably just cowardice, because she's got a lot of power and clout behind her. But if it was a complaint about us, a bunch of comedians in a small room in Edinburgh, they might well have taken it further.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to breakfast.
Oh, you're doing that, are you? Excellent, well done.
Well, my name's there, isn't it?
Is it? Oh, it is.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. I do
You
apologise.
should apologise.
She normally checks, don't you, before we kick off?
Yeah. But this time I saw my name and I thought, it's a green light. I'm going to go for it. Now, nearly a fifth of teenagers say that the internet is their main source for information about sexual health and healthy relationships.
Oh, well, that's going to go well, isn't it? Frankly. Anything on the internet. Well, that's according to the Sex Education Forum charity, who've highlighted online education is dangerous and exposes young people to untrustworthy information. Well, what a shocker.
Yes. So this morning we're asking, should schools be taking a greater role in sex and relationship education?
Let's talk to parent and medical clinician Izzy Montague and sex therapist and relationship expert Emiliana Silvestri. Good to see you both this morning. Emiliana, what's your view on who should be taking the lead on this?
Good morning. Well, I absolutely think education should be leading this, simply because us adults weren't educated at school appropriately on sex education. And many of us don't know much about sex, hence why people are turning to the internet. So for us to expect children to teach themselves via the internet is just ridiculous. They're going to get the wrong information. And what I think people need to understand is the quality of our relationships determines the quality of our life. Everything revolves around who we connect with. And if we don't understand relationships other than what we saw in the house that we grew up in, we're going to get into a pickle. And absolutely imperative that schools introduce relationship and sex education at a high standard in school. It's probably, I would say, one of the most important subjects that kids can be learning.
OK, Izzy, what do you make of that? Because I'm sure as a parent, you're very alarmed that most children are learning about sex and relationships on the internet.
So, I mean, I think that is a deeper issue altogether about where children are going to learn about their education. But I think schools taking that on board is an absolute no. It's such a broad subject. And the issue that I have is, what exactly are you going to be teaching children when it comes to sex education? Is it biology or is it relationship? Which is very different from families to families, different cultures, different beliefs. It's wrong that there is a one, size fits all, that every single relationship that you're going to be teaching children will fit into a child's background and child's beliefs. It's not a school's place to intervene and to interfere. You can open up the subject with parents and say, could you have this conversation with a parent? You can even direct parents of how to have that conversation. But to claim that schools should be enforcing their views onto other people's children and
it's
onto
not
families,
views, it's factual information. It's not views.
What's factual?
Sex education. And you say, I appreciate you say it should be left to parents, but can you tell me how many sex hormones a woman has, how many sex hormones a man has, when we produce testosterone, when a man produces testosterone? My guess is no.
But that's biology.
Yeah, and it's
but that's biology. That's got nothing to do with relationships. What you
it's
have
got everything to do with relationships, because generally we have sex with other people, so that is a relationship. So it's imperative.
No, because you're just mixing two. You're conflating two different things together. You're claiming that by teaching children about hormones is the same as teaching children about what relationships they should be having and what type of sex they should be having, and that's completely two different things.
Not what type of sex, but just to have an understanding of sex rather than go to the internet on pornography. No, there's currently an epidemic.
Disagree.
There's currently an epidemic of erectile dysfunction. So many of my clients are 18-year-old boys that are not able to perform physically as a result of going to the internet to get their interest in sex. It's imperative that we are educating these children.
There's too much that you're conflating in with it. You're on about the biology behind what's going on, and then you're saying about, well, 18-year-old boys. That's a conversation that children need to be having within their family home. Why are children having sex?
Oh,
Why are children
I love
having
that
sex?
you think everybody can go to their parents, but I tell you now, most children do not want to go to their parents to talk about their difficulties.
I never said that. I never said that this was an easy issue to be able to go to your parents to speak about. I said have the conversations with parents and educate the parents of how to have this conversation.
And maybe you're a lovely parent, and maybe you're a lovely parent that your kids can go to. But I think
it's not a school's place.
All right, ladies, let me jump in. Izzy, what would your answer be then to a solution to a problem where a child cannot go to their parents because their parents wouldn't necessarily approve of the relationship for whatever reason, wouldn't approve of them having sex, perhaps? What is then that child meant to do?
So I would say that what should be tackled is the idea of sexual relationship. It's not a case that a child should be able to go to a parent and just have any conversation about sex, and parents should be welcoming. The beliefs behind sex is very important. So a child that is going to a parent saying that they're having sexual relationship, that goes deeper than just, talking about, a penis and everything else. It goes into, well, why are you having sex? What are your views behind having sex? Sex, for a lot of people, should be within marriage. So why are you condoling, or basically, it's corrupting children to thinking that having sex in a certain type of way is okay. Are the schools going to tell children off who are 14 having sex? No, they're not. They're going to simply even, say that it's okay. It's not okay for children to be sexually active at those ages. Where do you draw the line? She's got a very tainted view of the sex that, it's open, it's lovely. No, it's not open and lovely. Sex, there's a lot behind sex, and that should be discussed with parents of how they would like to have that conversation with their child.
Izzy, we are running out of time, so Emiliana, I want to give you the last word.
Thank you. I don't think I've got a tainted view because I think sex is lovely. The reason that we're all here, sitting here today, is sex, and it shouldn't be stigmatised. It should be something that we can talk about openly. It's a beautiful thing that two people who are in love should be able to do together. And the reason we need to educate children on that is because they are extremely promiscuous. They're confused about consent as a result of what they're getting online on the internet that none of us should trust. I know myself, I'm poorly. I go to Google and then I'm in a pickle. So we all know that the internet is not a healthy place to get our information. It's imperative that education introduce sex and relationships into school. It's not a tainted view to think that sex is a lovely thing. That's the problem. Exactly there. That's the problem, that people think that it's tainted to think of sex as a beautiful thing. That's the problem that we have in society.
All right, Emiliana, Izzy, thank you both very much indeed. Appreciate your thoughts. If you've got a view on that, then we would love to hear from you. Should schools be getting more involved? Should it be purely down to parents to give their view? My concern with that would be, does a child want to follow the parents' beliefs? And children... sex education was always brought about. It was brought about to try to reduce the number of teenage pregnancies.
Yeah.
That's what it was there for. So people knew what... Because, it's not that long ago, within my grandparents' lifetime, that people were getting married and didn't know about sex, or didn't know why they were getting pregnant, or how to get pregnant, or anything else.
Well, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/yoursay.
Now, earlier, we ran a story on homelessness, which mentioned one of the Manchester mayoral candidates. So, just to give you a full picture, this is exactly who is standing for the mayoral election in Greater Manchester. Andy Burnham for the Labour Party, Laura Evans for the Conservative Party, Jake Austin for the Liberal Democrats, Dan Barker for Reform UK, Hannah Catherine Spencer for the Green Party, and Nick Buckley, who's standing as an independent.
Now, still to come, athletes could get prize money at the Olympics for the first time at this summer's Games in Paris. What do you make of that? We'll be talking about it next in the papers.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding in Argyll and Bute on the A83. Traffic at Reston, be thankful, is being diverted via the old military road because of the weather conditions. The A74M in South Lanarkshire is closed southbound from junction 14 at Crawford to 15 at Moffat after an accident causing queues and delays too. As you divert in London, Southwark Park Road in Bermondsey is closed in both directions for an investigation. It's been closed since late last night. In Dorset, the A35 is closed each way between the Esso roundabout at Bridport and the A37 at the Monkeys Jump roundabout at Dorchester for emergency repairs after an accident last night. And in Cornwall, the A389 is closed in both directions along Turf Street in Bodmin, and that's because of a police investigation. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Let's have a look at the papers this morning with former Special Advisor to Michael Gove, Charlie Rowley, former Labour Advisor, Scarlett Maguire. Morning to you both. We're just going to have a quick... We're splitting things up a little bit. Oh. So, Charlie, just can we have a quick look at The Guardian and hate crime report, most of which says the police are not authentic.
Yeah, so this is on the back of the Scottish Parliament passing a new legislation, Crime and Public Order Bill, which was supposedly to protect things like hate crime against minority groups, but particularly following sort of, these are transgender and LGBT communities. But on the back of that, out of the thousands of complaints that have been made to the police, only 3.8% are actually legitimate. So it has opened, again, a whole other can of worms as to whether this new act passed in the Scottish Parliament is fit for purpose, whether the police are actually now being pulled from pillar to post, looking at things that they shouldn't be.
Scarlett?
Yeah, I mean, what is obvious is there is such a campaign against this bill that I mean, so J.K. Rowling sort of tweeted a really horrible tweet about trans people, naming them and sort of trying to name and shame, which they said wasn't a hate crime, and so you just think, well, there isn't. But I mean, basically, this bill has been completely messed up, and it has not gone through with the consensus of the Scottish people or the police, and you just can't you just can't
So
do
it's
that.
unenforceable.
Well, it is unenforceable.
Well, it's unenforceable, and also the police aren't actually able to police it. No. I mean, I think it's something like they've had a 45-minute online assessment centre sort of thing in order to give them the means to police it. And there's not enough police officers.
There are, and trying to police Twitter or investigate crimes that people might have, or alleged crimes or complaints on the interweb is very different to going to catch the actual criminals that are doing the shoplifting, that are doing the burglary. They're actually really important to people on the streets of Scotland.
Yeah, but maybe we could all just be a little bit nicer to each other, then there'd be less hate to investigate.
Yes, I
Yes.
think that is the answer, is kindness. I think we need a lot more of it, particularly on Twitter.
Yes, I agree. Charlie, Scarlett, we are going to take a short break. We're going to be back with more in just a moment, but first, here's your weather with Alex.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, here's your latest GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Some damp, drizzly weather across southern parts today, but elsewhere it's looking largely dry and pretty warm. Like I said though, across southern parts here there will be outbreaks of drizzly rain, going to be quite grey and a bit dank here. Further north though, lots of fine weather to be had, especially across parts of Scotland, northern England, a decent amount of sunshine, and with the sunshine it is also going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are likely to be higher than they have been recently. Could see highs of around 20 or 21 Celsius, which would make it the warmest day of the year so far. Later on, as we go through the end of the day and overnight, we are going to see some wet weather spilling its way across parts of Northern Ireland, into parts of North Wales, Northern England and across Scotland too. Some of this wet weather could be pretty heavy, though in the south it is likely to stay mostly dry, albeit pretty cloudy. Because of the cloud, temperatures won't drop much, so it is going to be a mild start to the day tomorrow, most places starting in double figures. As we go through Friday itself then, and a bit of a north-south split across northern parts, there will be further outbreaks of rain. Some of them could be quite persistent, a bit heavy at times, particularly across western parts of Scotland, perhaps northwest England as well. Further south though, largely dry and bright, some decent sunshine, and with that, whilst temperatures might not be quite as high as today, it is still going to be warm, getting into the high teens. A similar picture for many of us on Saturday. I'll see you again soon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
This new hate crime bill on women's issues, you think this is the least funny April Fool's joke in history?
Yeah, although the Scottish Government and the Scottish Police do seem to be trying to make a bit of a joke of it when, you know, their campaign Hate Hurts is fronted by a hate monster who's a sort of cuddly, bright red Muppet-style thing. And some of the things that Humza Yousaf said about it were from a soft play centre over the weekend. But yeah, it's really not a joke. It's not actually clever lawyers who know the wording of the law who enforce the law. It's the police. And the police have basically not been trained on this at all. There's a 2-hour online training course they're meant to have done, and lots of them haven't already done it. And we know from the way that the police have been talking about it that they're wildly overstretching what it might actually be to be, in particular, abusive, which is one of the words in the new law, and specifically on the issue of transgender identity. To claim that just noticing the fact that there are two sexes and that sex can't change is meant to be hateful, that Even after years of trying to study it, I can't understand why people hold this belief. But it's part and parcel of a pattern of legal measures that the Scottish Government has either introduced or has sought to introduce. So it tried to introduce gender self-ID, but that was overruled by Westminster because it was out of the power of the devolved government. It's still attempting to bring in a conversion therapy law, which sounds nice but isn't nice. It actually criminalises proper ethical treatment of gender-confused youngsters. They're trying to say that men who have certificates saying that they're women count as women for a particular measure to do with public boards. And then this hate crime law, which tries to make it really difficult for someone to talk in a factual, reality-based, clear, understandable way about all these measures. It all adds up to a sort of an authoritarian attempt to deny the fact that human beings are mammals and come in two sexes, and that recognising that matters for women's rights especially.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
All right, still going through the papers this morning with Charlie and Scarlett. What we're going to have a look at?
Rishi Sunak's shoes, please.
Oh, no, we're going Jan Leeming, weren't we?
Jan Leeming, so we'll save the shoes.
We'll save the shoes. Jan Leeming.
Jan Leeming. So Jan Leeming says that because she's got what is called received pronunciation, because she talks properly, that she's not getting work. And I just think this is complete and utter rubbish. I mean, one of the reasons she's not getting work is because she's an older woman. I say this, I have a one-woman campaign about old women on television, and I think there should be more of us.
But she's 82.
But actually, the real reason is her voice isn't friendly. Why would you hire her to do voiceovers? It's not a friendly voice. I mean, that's what, you wouldn't have her doing ads or telling stories or anything. And I just think it's a way of her it's a way of her complaining. I mean, it's sort of like humble bragging, isn't it? I don't get any work because I speak properly.
Yeah.
Right.
Then I was listening to a podcast yesterday and somebody at LSC was saying they don't get into internships because they've got a working class accent.
Well,
that's what you'd hear more often.
Oh yeah, much more often. And I mean, frankly, if you've got a Devon or Cornwall accent, I mean, you just sound like a yokel. It's really, really difficult to sort of sound.
Pam Ayres has done all right.
Pam Ayres, yeah, she doesn't sound intellectual, does she? I mean, that's the whole point about Pam Ayres.
Oh, poor Pam.
Love Pam Ayres. No, well, look, I see the point she's making, but as you say, I get your point. I mean, traditional newsreader voice from the 80s.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Which isn't friendly,
So she stopped being a newsreader before Charlie was born.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, she's...
I mean, I wouldn't give voiceover work to Moira Stewart. Do you know what I mean? And she's a legend in her own lifetime. But, again, she's not got a warm delivery. But that's just the style it was at the time.
Yeah, it's changed over time, hasn't it?
Yeah, things have changed, thank heavens. Otherwise, I'd never have got nowhere.
Well, I've never had any problems with the...
You are quite posh.
Yeah.
Well,
posh. Faux posh.
Do you think it helps that you're very funny?
Well, that's very kind.
I think you're very warm.
Well,
funny.
Yes, the thing about you, Charlie, is you're warm.
Oh, thank you.
Were you expecting this?
I tried. Don't stop there. The only reason I turned up.
As a northerner, I want to talk about tea bags, please, on the Daily Star.
Oh, yes.
Would I like a cup of tea?
Well, this is a revelation to me because I do drink tea, but 1 in 7 people apparently use the same tea bag throughout the day. There are 1 in 7 Brits out there, maybe it's these women sat around that table. I mean, look at the colours of those teas. Some are stronger than others. But 1 in 7 apparently use a tea bag in the morning for their morning brew. They'll then hang it up somewhere or put it to the side on the draining board, or hang it on the washing line, is on the front page of the Star. to reuse that tea bag throughout the day. I find this...
get a couple of cups out of it.
Well, I find this extraordinary because I would just use one tea bag per brew. I think
that's the right way to do it.
I think that's the right way to do it because, you know, it'll... What
but it affects the taste, surely.
Quite right, yeah. What good is a dried-out old tea bag that's been hanging up on the washing line for, you know...
So my mother, who is incredibly frugal, not poor, but really would do that. She would have her tea bag in the morning, and it would last until the evening when she would throw it out.
Well, if you don't like strong tea, fair enough. I knew someone who used to put them in the freezer and then put them on her eyes.
Well, my granny does that sometimes.
Yeah, good for your eyes,
It's
apparently.
meant to be very good for your eyes, yeah.
The bags, get rid of the bags.
But that's all right. Use it as a different use. That's fine.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. That's quite nice. But I think reusing it is not
you
sold
do
on
that. If you go,
Lots of people do.
If you go to a cafe, you always get your teapot and you always get a pot of water so you can top it up and get more out of the bag, don't you?
Yeah, but that's whilst it's still sort of brewing in the pot. It's not been taken out, hung out to dry, and then you know, given a new lease of life at the next harvest. I mean,
I wouldn't be sold on that.
But look, if 1 in 7 people do it, it obviously works. I mean, it's not. Like, I mean, I always thought my mother was just crazy.
Well, we are in a cost of living crisis.
No.
And
Well, that's
tea bags are very expensive.
Well, yeah, and that's also what the article... There is a serious side to the Star, because it says during cost of living crisis, obviously people are reusing their tea bags, but they're also doing their home trims, cutting their own hair, and people swiping, sachets of ketchup and mustard and condiments because they don't want to buy those things in the supermarket.
Right, you two, it's been a joy and a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. We've got to leave it there because we're going to talk to the Shadow Secretary of State for Transport, Louise Haigh, who joins us now. Really good to see you this morning. Can we talk, please, about the problems within the NHS? We've been covering it a lot this morning. 50% of people working within the NHS, we're told, have been actively looking for jobs outside of the health service. It's very concerning. What would a Labour government do to stop that?
Well, that's absolutely right. And the recruitment and retention crisis has been severe for a long time now in the NHS, thanks to 14 years of underinvestment and mismanagement and chaos. My colleague, the Shadow Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has set out plans to bring down those waiting lists in order to reduce pressure on staff, because that's one of the major things that we hear. Yes, there's been disputes around pay, but actually the pressure that is on overworked NHS staff and social care staff is really significant. So bringing down those waiting lists to reduce the pressure, we hope would address that retention crisis and encourage people to stay in the NHS. But there's no doubt that too many of the workforce have been overlooked, overworked and under-supported for too long.
I wanted to ask you about a story that's not going anywhere, I'm afraid. It's Angela Rayner and questions about her taxes and whether she paid the right taxes, those sorts of questions. Jill Mortimer, a Tory MP, has criticised her, calling her an aggressive twister of truths and a hypocrite. She's the 4th Tory MP that Angela Rayner has demanded to see the tax details of and says she has refused to publish her own. Do you think that Angela Rayner is hiding her own secrets with this, and should she be made to publish her own tax returns?
Well, nobody's asking, as far as I'm aware, for Angela Rayner to publish her tax return, but she has been asked to publish very private personal tax advice that would reveal a number of personal details about her children and her family's situation. She's been very clear that she will cooperate fully with HMRC if they make any requests or investigate the issue, but as far as I'm aware, they haven't so far. She has received this personal advice, and it's clear that no tax is owed, the issue is being perpetuated because the various Tory MPs are perpetuating the issue. But she has answered these questions in detail, and I'm fully confident that she's given the answers in full.
I mean, presumably, bits about her children could be redacted, you would imagine. Anyway, look, I don't want to linger on that because you are at a bus depot by the look of it, and we are addressing the bus issue. We've been talking about this today. I mean, there is a huge bus crisis actually across the UK, where lots of people just can't get the service isn't there for them anymore.
That's absolutely right. And since 2010, we've lost 5,000 bus routes across England, outside London. And a big part of the reason for that is because we have, quite frankly, an insane system in this country. We're the only country in the developed world that allows private bus operators to pick and choose whatever routes they want. And the taxpayer is left to subsidise the rest that communities depend upon. In London, for the last 40 years, they've had control over their bus network. And the Mayor of London is able to set which routes and services he wants to be run, and private operators then bid in to run them. Greater Manchester has just moved to that system, and we think that every area of England should have those same powers and be able to take back control as well, so that we can set the routes, fares and services that we need, and we can build public transport networks that really work for everyone. The current system is incredibly inefficient and wasteful, and we think actually these reforms will be better value for the taxpayer and will increase the number of routes across England by more than 1,300.
I'm so sorry. Thank you.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Now in Argyll and Bute on the A83, poor weather conditions mean traffic is currently using the old military road alongside the A83. The A74M in South Lanarkshire is closed southbound from junction 14 at Crawford to junction 15 at Moffat after an accident involving a car and a lorry. There are queues towards the closure and delays too as you divert. In London, Southwark Park Road in Bermondsey is closed in both directions for an investigation. That's been closed since late last night, with St James Road also closed there. In Dorset, the A35 is closed each way between the Esso roundabout at Bridport and the A37, the Monkeys Jump roundabout at Dorchester after an accident last night. And in Cornwall, the A389 is closed each way along Turf Street in Bodmin for an investigation. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. First, there's a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash for you to spend this summer. Then, we want to send you on a bespoke 7-night small boat cruise for two worth £10,000. Thanks to Variety Cruises, you'll be able to choose from any of their 2025 Greek adventures and discover Greece like never before. And with flights, meals, drinks and excursions included, all you have to do is relax. We'll also give you these terrific travel treats. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 26th of April. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Morning to you, it's 9 o'clock on Thursday the 11th of April. Today, is there a cabinet revolt on the cards? Rishi Sunak faces a backlash from his government after threatening to leave the European Court of Human Rights over the Rwanda policy.
The Tory party at large has hardly ever looked so divided, and now Rishi Sunak might be facing splits within his own inner circle. Find out more with me very soon.
Government figures show sickness benefits across Britain rose in every constituency last year, with Tory heartlands seeing some of the biggest increases.
The Prime Minister admits that stubbornly high NHS waiting lists one of the biggest failures in office, as a study reveals nearly half of workers looking at job adverts outside of the health service.
US President Joe Biden urges Iran against launching a missile strike on Israel as he vows ironclad support for Netanyahu.
And the Darcy days are over. Bridget Jones's fans are up in arms, apparently, as Colin Firth is reportedly set to miss out on the 4th instalment of the film.
It's a bit damp and drizzly across southern parts today, but warm and much drier and brighter further north. I'll have more in the full forecast coming up.
Morning to you, I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Loads of you getting in touch on our new system this morning about everything. It's very, very difficult to go through. There's so many of them, heck. We'll get the hang of it at this end, so don't you worry. Pete Kelly says we're talking about accents, and Jan Leeming of BBC News fame back in the 80s saying she can't get any work now because her accent is too posh.
Yeah.
She's 82, Jan. What do you want to work for? 82, just be having a lovely time, putting your feet up.
She's very attractive as well.
Oh, she's a very good-looking...
We were just looking her up, weren't we?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Look, I can't work your laptop. There you go. I think she looks great.
She does look great. She was on Eurovision
82.
last year. No, you look great, Jan, but why do you want to work? Pete Kelly says, I'm proud of my black country accent, but I won't be reading the news anytime soon.
But it has changed, hasn't it? News accents.
It does, but you have to soften it. I mean, I don't talk like this when I'm not working, do I? I'm more northern.
Yeah.
So I sort of, it's like a telephone voice.
Yes, your telephone voice, but all the time.
But there you go.
If that makes sense. And lots of people talking about passports as well. We're talking about that a little bit earlier on in the programme. Nigel says, I applied for my passport 8 days ago. It arrived yesterday, all done. Just an amazing service. That's good. That's some bright news. If you do need a passport in this country, it's going very well, we're being told.
Yeah, well, there you go. Good. So it should be. As I say, this is our brand new system where you can let us know what you want to talk about this morning, and indeed you can talk to each other as well. So instead of emailing in like the good old days, you just get online and go to gbnews.com/yoursay. Here are the details.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family. Simply go to gbnews.com/yoursay.
Do you know, that lovely shot of me, to say so myself...
You do look lovely in that shot.
At the People's Forum a couple of months ago, it was lovely talking to all the people who came in for that. If you watch, any of you are watching this morning, it was so lovely to see and have a right laugh, actually.
Yeah, and you were big fans of Stephen.
We had a right old giggle, some of us, especially one lady in particular. You know who you are in the green jacket. I'll never forget you as long as I live.
Oh.
Dear me.
What was she doing?
She was very saucy and cheeky.
Was she?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I bet you loved that.
Yeah, it was great fun. It was great fun. Best thing is when we get to meet you. It's really, really lovely. So, anyway, more of that, hopefully, in the months to come, ahead of the election.
Tell us more.
Right, shall we have a look at the main news this morning?
Let's go to our top story.
And Rishi Sunak will face, or could face, a cabinet revolt if he decides to leave the European Court of Human Rights.
Well, at least 12 cabinet members are to oppose leaving, including Jeremy Hunt, James Cleverly and Alex Chalk.
Well, it all comes amid calls from Tory MPs to quit the ECHR. Well, it's been going on for a while, but particularly this week following that new ruling that governments have a duty to protect people from climate change.
Well, we're now joined by our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, who joins us live now from Westminster. Good to see you this morning, Olivia. And do you really think a cabinet revolt could be on the cards here?
Well, there are quite a lot of ifs in this story. Rishi Sunak hasn't actually yet said that it will be Conservative policy at the next election to leave the ECHR, but it sounds like something he is contemplating. If he does go down that route, then he will expect a big revolt from the cabinet. It's thought that by about 2-1, cabinet ministers support staying in the ECHR, including some very senior cabinet ministers like James Cleverly and David Cameron. That said, there there are plenty of backbench MPs and a handful of cabinet ministers who would like to see Britain leave the ECHR. And as for Conservative voters, well, they're split 50-50. So you could look on the optimistic side for Rishi Sunak and say either way, he will have friends, he'll have supporters, or you could say that this is a bit of a headache for him. Whichever route he chooses to take, he will see splits within his party, both within the parliamentary party and in the country at large.
Also, on top of all of this, we've just heard, haven't we, from Boris Johnson, who I'd be interested to know whether he's trying to rally the troops or not on behalf of the government.
Well, it was a very robust Boris Johnson-esque interview that he did earlier in Canada at a free trade conference. And he spoke about the benefits of Brexit. People are often asked, Brexit supporters are often asked, well, what can you point to? What are the benefits? Well, this is what Boris Johnson had to say.
Brexit is the benefit of Brexit.
And the vaccine rollout the fastest in Europe by miles, and AUKUS, and an independent policy on Ukraine, and our ability to do AI differently, and new rules on bio. Just a huge range of things. Don't believe the negativity, folks.
It's not negative.
No,
it's not
I'm
negative
not saying you are.
at all.
No, you're great.
Don't believe the negativity, folks. A very Johnson-esque end to that defence, that robust defence of Brexit there. What will the public make of this? Will it be seen as a sign that Boris Johnson could be willing to campaign properly for Rishi Sunak at the next election to show his full support for the current Prime Minister? If that's the case, well, that could potentially win back the Conservatives some support. Or is it Boris Johnson freewheeling, potentially looking at a possibility of coming back after the next election in a front-line capacity in the event of a Conservative defeat? Boris Johnson also gave a pretty stark warning to Donald Trump, suggesting that America could be on the verge of handing Putin victory if they don't hand over some more money to Ukraine. Now, that has been seen by many as Boris Johnson playing the sort of elder statesman, which could be seen as a thorn in Rishi Sunak's side. But let's have a listen to what he had to say.
If you want to make America great again, then you don't begin a new Republican presidency, which may well happen. You don't begin that by conceding victory to Vladimir Putin and letting the Ukrainians leave. And it would be a disaster. It would be a disaster for the West, and it would be a disaster for America.
Well, there are people who say that Boris Johnson and Donald Trump have a lot in common, but as you can see from that, on foreign policy, they are very much divided. And that reflects a wider divide between Britain's policy on Ukraine and the policy of a Republican government, if that government comes to pass. That'll be a really interesting development to watch over the next few months before our 2 elections.
OK, Olivia, for now, thanks very much indeed.
Now, an exclusive GB News investigation has found that the Home Office is unable to confirm how many convicted foreign nationals were issued a deportation order in 2023.
Yeah, responding to a Freedom of Information request submitted by GB News, the Home Office said it was unable to confirm figures because of a disruption to data systems.
Well, we're now joined by our investigations reporter, Charlie Peters. Morning to you, Charlie. What have you found out?
They just don't know. And it's been a bit of a back and forth with the Home Office this week. They're able to tell us how many foreign national offenders they've deported over the last few years, but they can't say how many are awaiting deportation. They say that they've removed 17,700 foreign national offenders since January 2019. But when you ask them for the latest data on those who've been issued an order, that's only available up to September 2022. And that was confirmed last month by the UK's countering illegal migration minister, Michael Tomlinson, in a written question in Parliament. So we went to ask, where's the latest data? And they said that it would cost too much to acquire that information from their systems, the information systems they have at the Home Office. There's a £600 limit on FOIs. So if it's going to cost more than that in a 24-hour period, they just say no. Now, after that FOI came back, we went to ask them, OK, we have a story here. Is there any way that you could kind of bypass this concern and give us the latest information? and they just couldn't do it. They wouldn't cough up those figures. Now, analysts I've spoken to say this points to a wider crisis in the Home Office where they're not on top of the detail and the data as it relates to illegal migration. This is pretty crucial, as political analysts will say, at the time when migration is such a leading issue in the national debate, with net migration reaching record levels last year. The government, many say, really should have this information to hand.
Well, if they don't know how many people they want to deport, then how do they go about getting them and deporting them?
And it's a situation that's already in crisis. We do know that the estate for deportation has been dwindled in recent years, some 2,000 spaces available for that. And if you've deported 17,700 in the last 5 years, that points to a kind of a surplus of space that's really lacking, and they need that capacity to remove them. In a report last year by the Chief Inspector of the Borders, we did hear from a staff member in that space saying that the Foreign National Offender Returns Command, the team that deals with getting rid of foreign criminals, they said that there was no single version of the truth on figures, which is a really concerning statement that we can draw out as it relates to these statistics. And that was said over a year ago. In that time, we are expecting some improvement, of course. The Home Office say that they don't recognise the claims that we're making, but also they're not able to recognise the truth and give us the data. And they also point to the fact that they are, as they say, removing so many people, and they're prioritising tackling violence against women and girls in their current deportation strategy.
OK.
Charlie Peters, thank you very much indeed.
David Newby's been in touch on this and says, is the Home Office computer a Fujitsu?
It's very concerning, though, isn't it? Just about the handling of data, the storage of data.
Well,
it's not good enough, is it?
It's got to be there somewhere. Right, coming up at 9:30, as always, it's Britain's Newsroom, and Andrew Pearce is here. Good morning.
Morning, how are you
Morning.
Today? Yes, all right, thanks.
How are you?
All right, yeah,
Good.
very well.
What are you going to be chomping down on today?
Well, Rishi's out campaigning today in local elections, and Boris will be talking about the broadside from Ottawa from Boris Johnson.
I mean, he was very robust there.
It was terrific, but I loved his line about the party of Winston Churchill banning cigars, because, of course, Rishi's got this idea of banning anybody who's now 15 from ever being able to legally buy cigarettes. An idea which sounds on paper great, but most Tory MPs I speak to say, what the hell? We've got more important things to do. Why are we banning anything? We're also talking about the story you've been talking about, the ECHR, the rift in the Cabinet. But I think that's going to... I think, actually, the balmy, in my view, verdict from the ECHR on climate change in Switzerland will strengthen the PM's hand if he does try and take on the ECHR, because I haven't found a Tory MP who thinks it was a good thing to do.
But it's one of those things, though, on paper, it sort of looks all right. And you just think for most of us up and down the country, you go, well, climate change, yeah, well, you know, if we've agreed these targets, we should meet them. It's when you drill down into what it actually means.
Yeah. I mean, what are they going to do next, the European Court of Human Rights? Say we've got to spend more on defence spending. I mean, where do they go with this? They completely overreach themselves. Quite encouraged that the only judge that expressed some reluctance about all this was the British one. So there is some... But of course, it goes through and there's no appeal. I'm no fan of this court. No fan at all. And Scrabble for simpletons. They're changing Scrabble. We will reveal all the details. We've got a former Scrabble world champion coming on to say, don't change what's good. What do they say? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's interesting. Is it about what words you can use, then?
All that, and apparently more and more people are now looking up words because, and of course they're using Google and all that sort of thing. So it's trying to Scrabble to reflect the modern world. And we're also talking about which Prime Minister had an affair when he was in Downing Street.
Oh, yes.
That's
I read
a fascinating
that this morning.
story.
That was a good read, yeah.
And I've read so many biographies of this Prime Minister, we'll keep the name for a little later, none of them mentioned it.
Yeah, interesting.
Very interesting.
Really can keep some things hidden in Downing Street.
Yeah.
Not many things.
No, not many, fortunately.
Yeah.
We don't want secrets in Downing Street.
You'll find out more from 9:30. Thanks, Andrew Pearce.
Yes, we certainly will. Right, let's tell you about the biggest prize of the year. Well, so far at least, make it even bigger.
It's going to keep getting bigger, I think.
Oh, yes, £10,000 cash, luxury travel items and a £10,000 2025 all-inclusive Greek cruise.
Do you want the chance to win it? Well, here's how.
This is your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. First, there's a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash for you to spend this summer. Then, we want to send you on a bespoke 7-night small boat cruise for two worth £10,000. Thanks to Variety Cruises, you'll be able to choose from any of their 2025 Greek adventures and discover Greece like never before. And with flights, meals, drinks and excursions included, all you have to do is relax. We'll also give you these terrific travel treats. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 26th of April. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Now, do stay with us because Bridget Jones is back next year, but without one crucial character. It's got lots of people up in arms. Now, the knickers, I think, are still there. The knickers are still here, but a love interest isn't. So we'll tell you more about that in a moment.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Tubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
You think this country needs new gas power stations. Apparently, this will all be about trying to get some form of energy security. Rishi Sunak has upset people today with this suggestion, people saying that actually this would do more damage to climate change than it would do good. Where are you on it, Richard?
I'll tell you exactly where. We need a lot more gas power stations and nuclear power stations because quite often the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. Last week, we imported 16% of all our electricity because we haven't got enough capacity in the UK, and we're now totally over-reliant on renewables.
The part of the problem is the lack of storage capacity, which the government has finally got round to addressing. I think this as backup is actually quite a sensible idea. But they are not doing anything, as far as I can tell. At the moment, it will be retrofitted to have storage capability, which seems to be utterly bonkers. I mean, anyone who's got solar panels, you know very well you're storing up energy. So it's about storage as much as production. They could have gone, 20 years ago, we could have had nuclear power. We could have done more. We haven't looked far enough ahead in the future, and we are in grave danger of making the same mistake. I mean, the other side of this is what is the difference going to be? Blackouts are, they're irritating and...
Irritating? It'd be disastrous. It would destroy our economy.
Well, they would be now, but, some of us remember 3-day weeks and things like that. And in fact, I grew up thinking that everybody had, at least a couple of days a week when they had to eat off a primer stove and things.
This is, again, I don't want to harp on, but this is one of the problems in the politics in our country, isn't it? So many politicians, they just think in election cycles. Absolutely. They just think, what can I do and say to get my own backside re-elected at the next general election? They're not always looking ahead at actually, politics aside, what is genuinely the best thing for this country.
I'm Patrick Christys. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country.
That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christys tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, Renee Zellweger and Hugh Grant are to return in a new Bridget Jones film called Mad About the Boy.
Yes, but no Mr. Darcy. Colin Firth won't be returning to reprise his iconic role.
Well, let's speak now to entertainment reporter Judita De Silva. Really good to see you this morning, Judita. What do you make of this, then? Bridget Jones, but without Mr. Darcy. Will it be the same?
It won't be the same, but it kind of fits in with the narrative because Helen Fielding, it's based on the book that she wrote of the same name in 2013, and she's also penned the screenplay. We don't know exactly how loyal the film is going to be to the narrative of the book, but with Helen Fielding behind it, we know she's steering the ship in the direction she wants Bridget Jones to go in, because you'll remember that she always talked about quote-unquote smug marrieds, and she had no shortage of disdain for them when she was single, and Helen Fielding said she didn't want Bridget to become one of those people. That's why she wrote the character of Mr. Darcy out. But in replacement, you then see a new potential love dynamic. We won't spoil it, but Daniel Cleaver is back and Hugh Grant is back to play him. And we're seeing the introduction of Chiwetel Ejiofor and Leo Woodall. So we don't know exactly their characters, but we know that they're new potential romantic options for Bridget.
Oh, it never ends for Bridget Jones, does it? She's got an insatiable appetite, is all I can say, Judita.
Indeed, she does. But then it's great to see that we're going to be seeing Bridget in her 50s. And it's going towards the conversation that's happening in entertainment in general, where you need to be comfortable with knowing that women's sexuality is depicted across the spectrum. It's not just love and romance. It's not just reserved for the young. You get to see Bridget, a very relatable character, go through the vicissitudes of romance and love and an ever-evolving life, and the new elements that are introduced into her story. And that's why people love the character so much. She speaks the reality of what women at different stages in their lives go through with life, family, romance, and more.
And all three Bridget Jones films so far have been box office smashes, haven't they? Do you think that we can expect the same from this fourth film? Or do you think there's also been criticism, hasn't there, about Bridget Jones being out of touch, about her being overweight, for example, and she's only 9 stone something that she writes in her diary. And, you know, she says she doesn't earn very much, but she owns a flat all by herself in Zone 1 in Borough Market in London. I mean, it has been criticised for being really quite out of touch.
It is because, yes, it's coming. That's the thing that a lot of franchises that are bringing in new branches of the story to this time. You're dealing with a very cynical audience. It's the social media generation. They're very nitpicky about the smallest details. What they're going to be leaning on is the established fan base of this franchise and people who already have an invested interest and a kind of dearness to their hearts for Bridget Jones. And that's why it's so important to have Renee Zellweger come back to play the role. But also, when it comes to the money of it, right now in Hollywood, when you're doing you're battling the streaming game, people want to lean into what they know is established and successful. They've never breached the mark of £40 million on production budgets, and they've raked in hundreds of millions. This is a valuable commodity for the studio. So they're hoping that they will be able to get that kind of ratio of return on another film. But then again, writing for the tone of the time now, we have to put our trust in Helen Fielding, that when she's adapted the screenplay, she will speak to an audience that will require certain things to believe the narrative is credible. So let's give her a chance.
No, absolutely. It'll be successful. It's bound to be. Judita, really good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Maybe Bridget has moved to Jeremy Hunt's constituency, where she's scrabbling by on a measly £100,000 a year, which is, Jeremy Hunt says, is, you know, just very... It's
not good enough, is it?
No.
It's not a good salary.
Scrabbling by on 100 grand a year, there you go. I've got to say, mentioning earlier on about the People's Forum, Judita's still being held up in our screen. Let Judita go. She's desperate for a cup of tea.
She was very good.
I'll talk about the lady in the green jacket in the audience.
Oh, yeah.
Who I will never forget.
Who you liked because she was very cheeky.
Oh, very cheeky, very saucy. Proper northern lass, weren't you? Anyway,
oh, look, he's blushing.
Judith Morris, who's been in touch on gbnews.com/yoursay. Saying, I am the lady in the green jacket. She said, and you were amazing. Can't wait for the next one. Thanks for being the best channel on TV.
I feel like I'm interrupting something between you and Judith.
She was lovely.
Oh.
She was really lovely. And everyone, I think Judith, I first bumped into you because you were complaining, because of security, that you couldn't pop out for a fag. Yeah. And so she's a bit miffed on that one.
I like Judith.
Anyway,
I like the sound of Judith.
It was really lovely to meet you, and we'll meet again, I'm sure. Anyway, that's it from us. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
We'll meet again tomorrow from 6.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning, here's your latest GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Some damp, drizzly weather across southern parts today, but elsewhere it's looking largely dry and pretty warm. Like I said though, across southern parts here there will be outbreaks of drizzly rain, going to be quite grey and a bit dank here. Further north though, lots of fine weather to be had, especially across parts of Scotland, northern England, a decent amount of sunshine, and with the sunshine it is also going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures are likely to be higher than they have been recently. Could see highs of around 20 or 21 Celsius, which would make it the warmest day of the year so far. Later on, as we go through the end of the day and overnight, we are going to see some wet weather spilling its way across parts of Northern Ireland, into parts of North Wales, Northern England and across Scotland too. Some of this wet weather could be pretty heavy, though in the south it is likely to stay mostly dry, albeit pretty cloudy. Because of the cloud, temperatures won't drop much, so it is going to be a mild start to the day tomorrow, most places starting in double figures. As we go through Friday itself then, and a bit of a north-south split across northern parts, there will be further outbreaks of rain. Some of them could be quite persistent, a bit heavy at times, particularly across western parts of Scotland, perhaps northwest England as well. Further south though, largely dry and bright, some decent sunshine, and with that, whilst temperatures might not be quite as high as today, it is still going to be warm, getting into the high teens. A similar picture for many of us on Saturday. I'll see you again soon.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
In Argyll and Bute on the A83 at Reston, be thankful traffic's using the Old Military Road because of poor weather conditions. The A74M in South Lanarkshire's closed southbound from junction 14 at Crawford to 15 at Moffat after an accident involving a car and a lorry causing queues. In London, Southwark Park Road in Bermondsey is closed in both directions for an investigation, with St James Road also closed there. In Dorset, the A35 is closed in both directions between the Esso roundabout at Bridport and the A37 at the Monkeys Jump roundabout at Dorchester for emergency repairs after an accident last night. In Cornwall, the A389 is closed along Turf Street in Bodmin for an investigation, and Skybus flights to and from the Isles of Scilly are currently on hold because of poor weather conditions. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Farage, Monday to Thursday from 7 p.m.
There is a kind of a Mediterranean side to that as well, because my mother came from that side, you know, a big family.